You see, something's going to happen.
What? What's going to happen?
Something wonderful.
What?
I understand how you feel. You see, it's all very clear to me now.
Welcome to the Occult Rejects. In this episode, I got myself and I got JJ Vance, not the vice president. I got Heidi and I got Jin the Ninja with me today. JJ, you want to let everybody know what's up and where they can find your stuff if they haven't heard of you before? Oh, it looked like you might have froze.
Yeah, I got some interwebs connectivity issues at the moment. My Starlink gremlins are acting up, but as always, Nick, I appreciate the invite. Looking forward to the conversation. Scientology stuff, L. Ron Hubbard stuff, right in my wheelhouse, right up my alley. So I'm looking forward to that. JJ Vance, host of Operation GCD, but more importantly, not the vice president. Definitely looking forward to the conversation with Jen and Heidi. As always, great to see you, fellow Occult Rejects, and Glenn, great meeting you. Looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely.
Listen, thank you very much, sir. And Jin the Ninja. Let everybody know where they can find all your stuff as well.
Thanks, boss, Mr. 93. Okay, so you can find me on Twitter at Wukong Reborn, WUKONG Reborn. My show's Threshold Saints. You can find it on Spotify and Apple. And of course, our Grey Lodge spaces are also on YouTube now. So I just launched a new metafiction series called Welcome to Hapaboria. So we are literally exploring the American Gnostic story, or what that could be, or what that is. So yeah, if you're interested in metafiction, meta magic, and meta history, that's my show. And I'm really excited because I have been listening to Rare Candy all week, and probably last week too. And yeah, it's a great show, and I'm a big fan of Glenn. So cool to meet you, and thank you guys all.
Awesome. No, thank you. Thank you, sir. And last but not least, Heidi. What's going on, Heidi?
Oh, hello, everybody.
Sorry. Oh. No, you're not. You're not. I thought you were for a second.
Oh,
you're good.
He's messing with me.
I am.
I'm like, hello. I know. Hello. I'm Heidi Love of the Unfiltered Rise. I do sound like I've got a cold, because I do. And me and my asthma are going to be fighting it out with these inhalers. Not smoker, like through this whole series. So trying not to die. That's what's up. You can find me at unfilteredrisepodcast.com and everywhere podcasts are served. And that's all for me. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be a part of the panel.
Of course. Very happy to have you here as well. And last but not least, finally to the guest, we got Glenn from Rare Candy Podcast. Sir, please let everybody know what your deal is. Please let everybody know what your deal is and where they can find your show, please.
Want everyone to know what my deal is, how much time you got. But no, you could find I'm one half of the podcast Rare Candy. We talk about a lot of stuff. Today, I think the specialty will be fiction literature. I believe that's why I was tapped on today. But we talk about pharma. We talk about life. We just like to screw around a little bit too. It's whatever we feel like for the week, which much to the chagrin of our audience, sometimes they want you to focus on one thing, but I can't. Sorry. Don't do well taking orders from stuff like that. But rarecandy.substack.com, that's where my co-host Cy writes a series called Bob's Red Pill. Really good writing on there. And then that's where our premium episode feed is, which is where you can find all of the episodes of Gain of Fiction, which is my fiction podcast that I specialize in on there. So it's kind of a bunch of little nesting doll situations. But Rare Candy Pod 1 on Twitter, Rare Candy Pod on Instagram, rarecandy.substack.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And I'll definitely include all your show notes in the bottom.
Yeah.
So yeah, Battlefield Earth. That's what we're going to be talking about, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Unfortunately, I know that was one kind of like this topic that Jin was really excited for, and hopefully he'll make it back. But oh, there he is. But yeah, and I do know that is associated with L. Ron Hubbard. So, hence JJ's here, and we're going to talk about some Scientology. And Jin, you made it back. Thank you very much. So, I guess what made you? I guess what I want to ask first is like, what made you even cover that? Like, do you have Scientology fascinate you like it does with us, or?
So I have a morbid curiosity with things I know are bad. So I like reading like torturous tomes of literature. Brothers Karamazov, like things like that. I love reading those because it is. I'm a former marathon runner, so there's like this torturous element of like, wow, I never want to do that again. But then like 2 months later, you're like, I'm think about my next one. And that was the end of the season 1. I was like, we're gonna do Battlefield Earth. I was gonna get a big group of people together because I was always like, man, this became a movie, a failure of a movie, but a movie. And I looked at the book and I said, that thing is massive. What could possibly be in there? But then my morbid curiosity was like, what if he has the sauce? Like, what if that's like how L. Ron Hubbard? I was like, maybe he's like a really good
Don't
writer.
say sauce.
Why is that?
Sorry.
Oh, I don't know.
No, you don't want sauce with L. Ron Hubbard.
I mean, I'm a morbid curiosity.
No, it's L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah. No, that's true. L. Ron Hubbard sauce is available. I've heard at times. And I turned that down every time it was.
Jack
offered.
Parsons probably knows about it.
Yeah, no, I agree there. Yeah, but yeah, I was wondering if he had the gosh, I don't even know another word other than sauce. But if he had the ability to persuade me through good writing, short answer is no, he doesn't. It's one of the best produced audiobooks of all time, though. It is incredible if you listen to it on Audible. The Scientology money behind it, that's awesome. I will say, like it is so cool, and it's I think like 48 hours long, and I ended up hating it. Like really bad. It was. We'll get into it, I guess, but it's so bad. And anybody who fell for Scientology is actually like way lower in my book of people that fall for stuff.
You're like, yo, you really bought some bullshit, didn't you?
See, have you actually seen the movie?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, that was supposed to be the all film of all films, right? I mean, this was a monumental effort by David Miscavige.
Yeah, and I know Travolta had read, because I didn't realize how early Travolta like converted. I thought he converted in the 90s, but he had converted in like the late 70s, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. 1974. So he reads Battlefield Earth as a Scientologist when it comes out, and he's like, Star Wars for losers. I'm doing this at some point. And it's like how long that stayed in his mind. And I will say, the book is more entertaining than the movie is more entertaining than the book. It's just not that good.
Right. Well, they also, Barry Pepper was supposed to be their next up and coming star in Scientology, right? So that's why he played opposite Travolta in that film. And while he was a lead in a lot of films, he was just never really that charismatic as you have like Tom Cruise or even L. Ron or David Miscavige, because Travolta to a certain extent. Although I've met him, he's got no charisma. That dude's a soul, an empty vessel, which is what Hollywood likes.
Yeah, actors for the most part. If I find out they have too many like opinions that I like, typically it doesn't show up on the screen, because you have to be a blank canvas a little bit if you're any good at it.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. That's often what's described by a lot of the best actors, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And now we want to know all of their thoughts now, which is great. Right. It's a great combination for good cinema.
What's your opinion? Folks who believe in this weird ancient alien cargo cult scenarios of Scientology, what's your opinion on modern day societal issues?
Yeah,
that's what I want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
We have the answers.
Yeah, exactly. The movie is not good, but like I totally remember when I watched it, I was like, wow, Barry Pepper. I forgot about Barry Pepper. He was in the Billy Crystal's 61 movie about the Yankees. He was in Saving Private Ryan, I want to say.
Yep.
And because he has that like not in Battlefield Earth, they give him some sweet gear to put on, but he has that like crew cut, like period piece military guy, but they kind of stopped making a lot of those movies, and then therefore they didn't need him.
He was also in a film called Knockaround Guys, which was interesting. It was like the late Brat Pack, if you will, from the 80s. It was the Vin Diesel, Barry Pepper, Seth Green. I'm missing somebody.
Oh, yes. Oh, my gosh. Blast from the past.
Well, they filmed that in Montana. I was stationed up there at the time. It was big news when they filmed that up there. So, but with Barry Pepper was also not a star, but he was in the film, a very Scientology casted, in my opinion, Scientology produced film, The Enemy of the State. And I think it was 1997.
Yeah, that's right. Enemy of the State. Oh,
so many Scientologists in that film, and it's really what, if you look at it from a Scientologist perspective, when they're not talking about these crazy alien tales and Battlefield Earth, their current societal perspectives on life here in America is the overreach and intrusion of government and religious functions and privacy functions of personal life. So if you look at that whole film, that's really what the underlying concept's about, is the evil government figures and nefarious actors within the government who are using these spy apparatuses unlawfully. And that's 1997. So they make a good point occasionally. I like to say a Scientologist's clock is right, twice a day. So just like any other broken clock. So they got that one right. They were right about that. But they were early on that fight, and that is what they've been really focused on that since the early 90s. But it's again, they want to do a lot of hood rat shit, so they don't want the government spying on them. But I mean, they make some good points in that argument.
Yeah. The what's his name? The like Tom Cruise. There's that viral clip that happens of Tom Cruise like crapping on big pharma for like ADD stuff. But what they don't show you is he's like, Scientology. All you gotta do is put him in Scientology. Like we'll correct the ADD, because if that's what they do, is they kind of they act as a controlled opposition in a sense to like, oh, you hate the government, so do we, dude. Like, come on over here. Anyways,
now you're tracking.
Yeah, do you have
you're tracking.
$1,000? Yeah,
they're not opposed to beating their members, so just ask Miscavige.
Tracking.
Yeah, Nick made this point a couple episodes ago about how sometimes like conspiracy can be a little anti-government in its formation. Now, I'm not saying that the critiques aren't valid, but the sort of like its directionality is always one-sided.
Sure.
I wondered, JJ, though. Oh, sorry, JJ.
No, go ahead.
I just wondered if Travolta, since he converted so early, if he might have some process connections.
Oh, 100%. We're going to get into that soon in Operation GCD here, talking some of those tales, because it's funny how I'm going to do an occult and esoteric review that I have yet to invite you and Nick to join me on yet. But so the film Devil's Reign, starring William Shatner. Old Bill's got his Satanist connections. And it's also got a young John Travolta in it. It's where he meets this other cast member who's a Scientologist. She introduces him to Scientology. And that's also where old Johnny Boy is hanging out with Anton LaVey, because he was the technical advisor on the film.
Whoa.
Wow, that's a crew, huh?
Yeah, they got a nice picture together. Travolta's a lot less handsy with Anton LaVey than he tried to get with me. So I don't know what that means, but...
maybe he thought you were better looking.
Maybe he wanted to take you to the desert.
I'm saying, I guess I'm better looking than old LaVey there, I suppose, in John's eyes. But
I don't know if that's too hard to do, though, JJ. So.
Yeah, he's not an attractive man.
Yeah, so either way it doesn't matter. He's barking up the wrong tree.
Jin's avatar is better looking.
It is interesting how much these folks have permeated Hollywood for a very long time. Like you were saying, that is the ongoing narrative that kind of around the Welcome Back Kotter years is when Travolta joins, but it's really much earlier, and they have a far greater grasp in Hollywood than I think. I think there's a lot of secret Scientologists, what I'm getting at. And then you have, as Jen was pointing out, the Process Church, quote unquote, offshoot, which I would call the dark wing of the OSA office or Guardian's office. That's their main hood rat shit wing of Scientology. The Process would be their dark wing side. It's started by former auditors. One of them worked as an assistant to L. Ron Hubbard in London back in '63. So it's they have a lot of folks in Hollywood that are part of the Process. Not the least of which is old Bob Cocaine Evans, legendary Hollywood film producer. So amongst many, many others. Roman Polanski. I think I just saw you do a pod. Oh, go ahead, Heidi.
Oh, I was just saying it makes sense if they're auditors because they have the secret. So.
And friends with old Hubs. Glenn, did I see you do a podcast there on Roman Polanski?
No, with Roman Polanski. He came on. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we
and on that note, I'm out, folks.
Yeah, no, we did an episode on him. I thought we talked about it fairly, like it was a fairly thing. I went through his films. I love his movies. I mean, I do. I love his films. And but sure. I read his autobiography. It's insane. And it goes up to about 84. So yes, the thing is mentioned in graphic detail, and he admits it in the thing. Play by play walks you through the interaction, and then he's like, "What's the big deal?"
Right? He's proud of it.
Yikes!
He's proud of it, and he's heralded for it by an element of Hollywood today. That's the kind of element I'm talking about with this Process.
Everybody was allowing them to be like, "Hey, the lighting's good to take pictures of that girl at my house over here. If you want, you can use my house. We do this all the time." It's crazy.
Yeah, and old Hubs was into this activity. Old Elron, he had a team of young girls that would walk around One of them would hold his drink, one would hold his ashtray, another one would hold a lighter, the other one would hold his cigarettes. Yeah, you know, they had a whole network.
Damn.
Do we know how many? I'm just curious, obviously, because Heidi's here and I'll do Kabbalah and impress her.
I'll have to get back to you on some numbers here because it is interesting. So Leah Remini would later pop up as a prominent Scientologist in a similar capacity. So when she signed her billion-year contract on or about the age of 11 or 12, she got assigned, if I remember correctly, as Shelley Miscavige's little assistant. Now, I don't know if she's got the same proclivities as Elrond does, but I suppose her husband does.
Well, no one knows where she is anymore since 2007.
Yeah, she's missing in action.
Yeah.
MIA. Yeah, imagine that. Imagine you're a CEO of any other organization or company. You make your wife disappear and no one even bats an eye. Imagine Coca-Cola, CEO of Coca-Cola is like, yeah, no one's seen my wife since, 2007. And people are like, that's unfortunate, but no one does.
He's only 5'1" anyways. This is part of the problem.
He's a small man. He's a small man.
Yeah.
He's shorter than Cruz.
Wow.
I'm not kidding. They say he's 5'1".
Damn.
Well, Cruz is a tiny fellow. He just likes to play a tall man who knows how to fight in films.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's good at it. Don't get me wrong. I like watching him play a tall guy who knows how to fight, but he's neither a tall guy, and I highly suspect he does not know how to fight.
He's got big teeth. He can bite you.
He knows how to.
I don't know.
Knows how to fly.
Yeah.
Though. Definitely knows how to pilot.
Dude, I saw a recent video of him on the new Mission Impossible. He's literally, they got him strapped onto the wing of a biplane, just 140 mile per hour winds, just Tom cruising it up. I'm like, well, this dude's a fucking lunatic. That's the, he really ruined it as the champion, as their poster boy when they early 2000s on his split from Scientology. So he left for a while. He left for almost a decade, almost. I think it was about 6-8 years, maybe something like that.
What's your speculation on why he went back?
It's a great question. They really worked him. Miscavige and his assistant, Marty Rathbun, who then later left and became the biggest opponent of Scientology. And now he's back as Miscavige's number 2. So these folks, they just play both sides. You know what I mean? And Ramini might be doing the same thing because, like I said, she was in close with Shelley Miscavige. She's the one who filed the missing persons report about Shelley Miscavige and I'm not saying that they're colluding or nothing, but because she was clearly friends with a woman, she got herself in trouble asking about it for her whereabouts, according to her own tale, which I'm willing to believe, but because these folks, as Heidi was saying, they like to beat their membership. I mean, if not physically, which they do, and they're known for that, mentally, because when Ramini asked where Shelley Miscavige was, apparently they're like, you need some auditing. You're going to need a sec check. We need to sec check you. They'll sec check you in a heartbeat.
Leather belt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they stick you in a room for like 12, 14 hours a day, holding them damn cans, answering questions for a couple days straight. That'll do some wonders to your psyche for sure.
Oh yeah.
Is there like some blackmail? I mean, do they have like a traditional blackmail network? Because that's what I'm getting at with Tom Cruise. That's the only reason you come back. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's all blackmail. Yeah, that's what I was. Well, that's what I was.
Yeah, can't they blackmail you from auditing? I mean, right then and there.
Yeah, everything you tell them, they write it down. They write it down and they videotape, and they have libraries of these things.
I mean, basically,
so for example,
they were like the Epstein before Epstein. They just weren't like they didn't catch you having sex with doing weird shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they were still blackmailing you.
Sure. Sure, they were getting the secrets. So, you got some powerful people. Adnan Khashoggi was did Scientology stuff. Robert Maxwell, his name I can't remember, but his son started MTV.
Khashoggi has ties with Mormons too.
Yep. Wow. And Trump. A lot of weird bedfellows there, huh?
Damn.
But with the Scientology stuff, like Ramini's up there high up, and then now today she's their biggest opponent. But if you go on her website, she wants you to donate to the Best Friends Animal Society. That's the Process Church of the Final Judgment. So what side does she play on?
Whoever pays her the most.
So I almost view it as she's working a coup against Hubbard. I'm sorry, Miscavige.
Oh,
Miscavige pulled it, and his crew, that Marty Rathbun guy and a couple other fellas, they pulled a coup against the folks Hubbard put in charge, right?
They tossed his office. Yeah, they tossed his office and threw him out. And he said he had all the secrets, and then they went in when he went out of town somewhere and looked for everything, and then tossed him out.
Yeah, well, he handed the church off to somebody else. This married couple was like, I can't think of their names at the moment, but
the boat people. Yeah, the boat people. I can't remember either.
But it was Miscavige and his young crew. They were all like 25, 20 to 28-year-olds. They all ran a coup. So this seems like a different coup. They're all trying to get Miscavige out of his power. And maybe that's why Marty Rathbun went back. Who knows? But
yeah, just have people just trying to take the shit over with. Take it over.
It's all about It's all a bunch of gangster spook stuff.
Yeah.
If you ask me. I mean, it's a magical space navy, right? I mean, what do you expect?
A magical space navy.
It is with Xenu at the helm.
Yeah,
they all wear the naval outfits. They run around in different seaports and stuff.
Hubbard had to do that because he needed something to make him look better. A uniform helps a little bit.
It's very Neptunian. You could say that, like in a qualistic way. You could say it's like very related to Hokmah, like sailing on the primordial waters above the abyss.
Even think about it, even in Crowley's Resh, they talk about the great bards in the sky. I mean, you even have like both symbolism there. And he was friends with Crowley.
He's big time friends with Crowley. It was not just like a here and there saw the guy. Like they were legit. I mean, Hubbard straight up said he was the Antichrist for a while. Like Hubbard himself, he would just be like, "I'm the Antichrist." But it's also they don't believe in any of that stuff. So it's like he was using it as this kind of like none of this matters. What I'm doing is opposing something that's not real. I'm the only real thing, which is really scary to me. I don't know.
He went by Maitreyu or the Antichrist for a time. I read that same thing and I was like, okay, the never ending story.
So it's like an inversion of the theosophical.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But it's like the inversion of the theosophical Maitreya, which they take from Buddhism. So it's not even like it's not even the simulacra of the original thing, but it's obviously the inversion of theosophy. So I think that's really interesting because when you read Liber 49, it is drawing from like original Gnostic text. Like it's very obvious, but they do invert it. But I also think there's an implication. That's just my opinion, but I do implication that you're not supposed to take it literal. Like I think that's Elrond's thing. Like I think he started to buy into his own bullshit later in the 60s. But I think even earlier, he kind of was like, oh, I'm going to do parafiction before that was even an idea. He's like, I'm going to create like a Mormon story. Like I'm going to do, I'm not saying that Mormonism is as science fiction as that, but I don't know.
I'm saying, I don't know. They got planets.
I will. I'll say it.
It's not less. It's not less sci-fi.
Exactly. Right, and Hubbard gets into the supreme being, and then I'm like, okay.
Well, Heidi, you have to have a galactic overlord. What kind of space opera is it if you don't have a galactic overlord? You need an antagonist.
So true.
One thing is this a book that do they push this book onto their members or something to buy?
The Battlefield Earth.
Oh, so they're probably even making a killing off that book too. Still.
Oh, just off. You want to hear a tax scheme they're running? They got the publishing house for not only all the religious texts that they push on their membership, they got the sci-fi writers publishing house underneath the church umbrella for tax-free status. So every copy of Battlefield Earth that anyone purchases, that's tax-free, friend. That's under the religious sanctions of Xenu.
I'm gonna piss everybody off and leave it in one of those like community little mailbox libraries out there, so they cannot get it. I'm already sad that I gave them some money because it was.
How wild is that?
What's that?
How wild is it they can pull that kind of scam? I mean, that's obviously a for-profit science fiction book. There's nothing religious about it,
Well, that's the dumbest part about the whole thing.
About it.
The dumbest thing about it is the whole this is anti-government. You're doing the most like bureaucratic bullshit of all time, like within a thing. But the fact that it's independent from a state-run organization, which they've infiltrated all of that, so it doesn't really. There are all these I guarantee you they have entertainment lawyers, every sort of thing, tentacles everywhere. But it's like you just
see now that does sound Mormon.
Yeah,
very Mormon.
Yeah,
the corporate structure of it too, right, Heidi?
Oh, of course, definitely.
And as we always say, like the corporate, when you apply the bureaucracy to institutions, that's what Luria said was a klipa. So you are creating the tree of death within the institution by applying bureaucracy to it. So it's kind of a very interesting idea. And I just want to say, I think Elrond was actually aware of that. I don't think he was like a Crowley level. Nick calls him like the occult genius, so I'm going to tease him. but I don't think he was like occult genius, but I think he was knowledgeable. He was a magician. He understood what, regardless of what happened in the desert, regardless of that, I think that he understood some things, had some degree of understanding. Not maybe Howard Hughes level, but
you'd be able to manipulate.
No, I think you're right. I think that's
long.
one thing that really, this magical aspect of Scientology helps it permeate throughout our culture, because it's fucking everywhere. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's a mess. There's so many secret Scientologists. You know, I can rattle off some names right now, and you'll be like, "Whoa, that dude's a Scientologist. That dude's a Scientologist." I don't know if that's really productive. I'll just do one. Keenan Ivory Wayans. You'd be like, "Whoa, that dude's a Scientologist."
No.
Yeah, he left one ancient alien cargo cult, went to another. He grew up a Jehovah's Witness.
Oh, major pain.
Well, then it might have been better, right?
I don't know. They're kind of the same thing,
Yeah,
really.
right?
I mean, they're really much in the same boat, right? They're apocalyptic. They do the alien stuff. They do the ancient alien cargo.
I think it's
cult.
quite easy for a guy like that to switch up, because Jehovah's Witness isn't going to get you auditions and roles. Scientology will get you auditions and roles.
That's
like if
an accurate statement.
You know what I'm saying? Like I completely get it. It's like, well, I already believe in, let's say I'm a Jehovah's Witness, and they're like, hey, look, I'm not trying to be mad at you, but like we can give you like the same satisfaction of this deep space knowledge thing, and we can get you a role in like House Party 3. And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah,
maybe House Party 4.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, you know what? Definitely House Party 4. There's no maybes in Scientology. We are getting with that, Keenan.
Yeah, they definitely have their marketing departments are good. They're real good about all that. Their infiltration of government's real good. So imagine this. Imagine a scenario you get. I'm not saying any one of you all here, but imagine an individual gets popped for just a minor drug violation in many jurisdictions. Roughly 70% of America, they cover this with this program, Narcanon. And state-funded, taxpayer-funded programs mandated by the court for minor drug offenses for drug rehab. So imagine you get popped in one of these scenarios, a little bit of drugs or pot or whatever, and you get assigned by the court instead of going to prison or paying a fine. You go to rehab to this Narcanon program, right? Again, you pay a small fee. The state's really funding all of it, right? And they suddenly give you a bunch of vitamins. You're sitting in some saunas. Next thing you know, you're a Scientologist because they just gave you a rundown. Because Narcanon was invented by Scientology, and they give you Scientology protocols when you go in there for drug rehab because this anti-drug stuff, right? So that's a very scary element. And then you look at folks like RFK, who actually started an anti-drug nonprofit with a Scientologist and is very much is represented Scientology in court in these drug matters as well. So he's very much on that same team and that same viewpoint of these same kind of drug. So when he's trying to remove, I'm not opposed to moving dyes and stuff from food and whatnot, but like it's what you were saying before there, Glenn, about that's not, they come at you with a Shyamalan twist there with some other things they're really after, some other motives, ulterior motives they're really after with these efforts, because really all they're trying to do is make everybody Scientologists.
Yeah, it's partially like at least the illusion of a patronage network, right? Where it's like, hey, we'll get you this. This is what you
try.
I mean, it's a bureaucratic deal with the devil, essentially, right? Is like, I would do anything for this. So like, oh, anything sounds good. We'll let you do this one thing. We'll put some money behind it. We'll do whatever. We'll help you advertise. We'll do all this. We just need X, Y, and Z from you. And it's usually out. The scale is not quite balanced, I would think.
And then they got rid of both their wives. Oh, wait, sorry.
No.
It's and when I say they permeate everything, so if you go to Hollywood, if you want to be a young actor, there's a famous school on Hollywood Boulevard run by an infamous Scientologist. He'll try to sign you up when you go there. So that's where a lot of folks get signed up real early. And as far as the blackmail operations go within that community, Richard Gere fell victim to that, it seems. And in the late 80s, early 90s, it seems, when he parted ways with Scientology and across America, a rumor grew. Long before this is how good their marketing and network and their network of communications is, because I think their Scientologists are the ones who spread that rumor. And it was something out of their little books from the auditing session of Richard Gere, and that was he shoves gerbils up his butt. Now, I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if he ever told them that, but I do believe Scientology's disseminated that message, at least, because that thing spread everywhere.
Yeah.
Rabies.
Oh, I remember that as a kid.
I don't know.
I mean, Lemmy Wink's South Park episode is like based off Richard Gere. I mean, it's just
but they did a South Park episode on it. Okay.
Yeah. They did a South Park episode of the hamster inside. I don't think it's Richard Gere, but it's basically a famous person, and it's crawling through, and it's a quest of almost a hero's journey of a hamster named Lemmy Wing,
Hero's journey.
trapped in the digestive tract of. I'm not an anatomy guy, but yeah, that's where it was.
Not good. Never good. That's a bad day.
Yeah, because you wonder how many this is pure speculation, of course, but how many Hollywood rumors, right? All the stuff you hear about are just from like Scientology, experiments, are just like, oh yeah, and at 12 hours, 43 minutes, 18 seconds, they do talk about the gerbil going up his ass. And they're like, go, please release that now. We did not get the latest. Right. We did not get the latest $100,000 payment from Richard Gere. So release the gerbil manifest.
Oh, it's worse than that. If you don't come in for your regular meetings and sec checks and auditing sessions every week, that's when you get put on the list. That's probably when they start to. We'll start low on the list if he doesn't come in this week. Next week we'll scale it up a bit.
Damn. Imagine that meeting with your agent. And your agent's like, Richard, what's going on here? And he's like, oh, did what? It's not true, of course. They're
like, it was 12 hours. Haven't you heard of those people that get like grilled with cops and they're like, I did the murder. He just made something up, so they'd quit it.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe it's something far worse.
Could be.
Yeah.
For sure. I'm sure it gets dark in some of them Scientologists auditing books, and they infiltrate politics. They had Sonny Bono, his entire congressional office there before he skied down the mountain the wrong way, hit a tree apparently, which I don't believe that story. He was a longtime Scientologist dating back to the 60s.
And he was in government too, right?
Wives missing, kids dying. All I'm saying is
married to Cher. So they work for Phil Spector. He was kind of the Process Church head of the musical scene in Laurel Canyon, right? Wall of Sound, right? Cher, that's where Sonny and Cher got their start, was Phil Spector. But yeah, he was a Scientologist back then. That's about the same time she raped Anthony Kiedis of Red Hot Chili Peppers when he was like, I think he claims to be 11 when that happened.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he grew up in Laurel Canyon. His father was an actor. He was in that same scene.
Yep.
So you know, 11.
Sorry, JJ.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Heidi. So JJ, you've spoken about this before, Wall of Sound, because I know Phil Spector. Obviously, you talk about him a lot.
Yeah, he's a creepy son of a bitch.
Right? I personally think that they borrowed Wall of Sound not just from Esalen and Barbara Marx Hubbard and all that, but I actually think they took it from Tantra. There's something decoherent about it. Decoherent is the pink ray. I know at least 4 or 3 of you have heard me talk about that. So I think there's something that they think that the sound in decoherence can produce magical experiences or maybe auditory and visual hallucinations. Quote, I'm using air quotes, but obviously can't see. But
I can't see them.
It's but air quotes. Yeah. So I think that that's what the Wall of Sound is, because this would make sense for a lot of the stuff that Heidi talked about in the series with me, but also what you talked about, JJ, and like the sex sort of magic stuff from 4 Pi.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, 4 Pi, tantric sex magic ritual, Buddhist, Tantra, Kali worshipping ritual, homicidal death cult. That's a lot of words, but they're a dark bunch.
That's like a Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's a Red Hot Chili Peppers album title.
Yeah, right.
Like blood sugar sex magic.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Wasn't that produced by Rick Rubin?
Oh, it was. It was.
You know the album he produced right after that? The Process. It was an album based on the Process Church with a band named Skinny Puppy.
Damn.
Oh.
There you go.
So you got Thelema, you got an offshoot of Thelema with the Process. I mean, Rick Rubin's in deep with. He's also very close with Jack Nicholson, who's a big time. Polanski and him both big time. And Cocaine Bob, they were a trio there. Cocaine Bob, I'm not sure if you saw in the book. They mentioned that book you were mentioning about there. Cocaine Bob came in for the cleanup crew on that operation. The rape thing is what I meant.
Damn. That was Bob. You're talking about Bob Evans?
Yeah, he came in for they all did Chinatown together there in 70s.
Yeah, he's Paramount. I mean, he was high up at Paramount.
Yeah, big time.
Wow, I didn't know that.
He's the one who hired Polanski, their first little project there. That's Satanist shit show of Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Anton LaVey was there. Of course, Sammy Davis was there. He was in it.
Oh, that makes sense. Cause Bob Evans, I mean, that's not just some like quiet actor or not some quiet guy in Hollywood. I mean, he's like everywhere, any 70s cinema, like he's a part of it. Like.
He was a part of, I mean, he was it till the end, man. He is Hollywood. He was, in fact, when you familiar with the film Wag the Dog?
Yes.
So, you know, the Dustin Hoffman character in there, that's a satirical representation of old Cocaine Bob.
Ah, that makes sense.
So Bob went to the premiere and he walked out and they said, what'd you think of the film? And he said, I thought I looked great in it.
That's pretty funny.
I mean, he made Hoffman's career. He made so many of those folks' careers. He made Hoffman's career. Hoffman was associated with the Weather Underground. That's a topic not often discussed.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that he lived. Well, I mean, when I say associate with him, he had at least social associations with him, whether or not he was a member. He lived next door to them there in Greenwich Village in that townhouse they blew up.
And they were the Patty Hearst people?
They were associated with the Patty Hearst eventually. Yeah, they were the folks. Bill Ayers, Bernadette Dorn. Their adopted son is the guy that was the recent DA of San Francisco, Chase Boudin. He's the one that let everybody shit on the sidewalks.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not far from there. I can smell it.
Oh, it used to be a lovely city. I really enjoyed that place. And last few times I went there, so much shit on the sidewalks.
Yeah, no, you're 100%. Like literally, my wife and I just went there 2 weeks ago. We had fun, and then like you walk down the Mission, you're just like, oh, that's not pit bull shit either. Like you just know it's pressure washed, you know, but like still not really, you know, it's still there. Yeah, it's bad.
But yeah, I mean even the Weather Underground, I argued they're an offshoot of the Process, really, because I mean their leaders venerate the Process and Process members like Charles Manson, Sirhan Sirhan, both the leaders, Bernadette Dorn and Bill Ayers, both venerate them. You know, the two things I tell folks to understand about the Weather Underground is, you know, the shit sidewalks, and also this on the fact that they all skirt charges, even the ones that go to prison ultimately get out and skirt charges, right? Even if they get jammed up. Like, for example, Susan Rosenberg actually blew up the U.S. Capitol building. Forget January 6th. This lady actually blew up bombs in the U.S. Capitol building in the early 80s, maybe 83, circa 83. Bill Clinton commuted her sentence on his way out of office last hour. And then fast forward to the summer of love, 2020, the summer of the Lord and Savior George Floyd. And he, if you donated money to that George Floyd cause with BLM, it actually went to a company named Act Blue, a non-quote. I'm actually going to do air quotes here, Jen. Non-profit. Called Act Blue. The treasurer for Act Blue, Susan Rosenberg, Weather Underground, bomber of the U.S. Capitol. And again, their folks venerate the Process, and the Process again is the dark wing of the Scientology stuff. So, Ed Sanders, the author of The Family, of the good book, the first book they're written on Charles Manson situation, not the Bugliosi bullshit. Sanders was writing his at the same time. In his files, he scribbled a note on one of his folders, which I find to be the funniest thing ever, especially in the shit that I look into, like these matters. He wrote, "The Process church people are everywhere," and I tend to agree.
I want to say, JJ, this actually makes the chaos magicians of the late 80s look good. Like all these things you're saying, like that the Discordians threw it all into chaos. It does kind of make them justify. It does kind of seem to me, maybe I'm saying this to be a little, edgelordy, but I do think that might be true actually, because, if everyone kind of takes the material, then it's not just owned by the Process. It's not just owned by these
No, that's precisely right. It's a dissemination of all the liability of it through different offshoots, but it's still one organization.
And how many of them are secretly conjoined with other religions, etc.?
Well, that's what a secret chief is. That's what a secret chief really is, right? It's the person who's the go-between between orders. Like we spoke with someone who may or may not be affiliated with those higher orders the other day. Nick invited me to speak with his friend. So I think that's what it is. It's someone who goes between, someone who selects adepts who are, I don't know, they think that will do well in their system. That's what I think. And I think all theosophy is talking about that. I don't think it's talking about ascended masters at all. Maybe people like in the Solar Temple that are pretending, or like a plug-in electric sword. Yeah, like I mean, I'm not saying they're not magicians. I'm just saying that the external presentation is more stage magic, which is also something that some magicians do like to do. I'm just saying.
Well, it covers your tracks if you want to do some really screwed up stuff. I mean, you can just be like, I was just entertaining.
Wasn't Houdini's whole career based off that?
Oh, who you know? JJ Vance.
He's kind of a spook, I think. In my opinion.
JJ Vance has really made me wonder about Houdini now.
Yeah, he was LARPing, right? Is that what you're saying? He was kind of a LARPing as a magician?
I mean,
I think he was an occultist playing games. I think he was an occultist playing games.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was LARPing. Yeah.
There was rumors that he would get people to like close their eyes and then he would go like handle some shit real fast. And then come back and be like, oh yeah, this thing, it turned into a stapler, you know, or whatever. I don't know, whatever the right. But like, yeah, whether he was, but he might have been doing actual stuff in his LARPing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can LARP and read, you know, satanic scripture. I'm still putting that energy out in the world. You know what I mean? Even if I don't believe it.
I like the idea of he's doing some occult shit, but he's doing it under this kind of guise of a performance art of a stage magician. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm. Well,
he was a very intelligent man, and his death makes no sense. It's all bullshit. That whole story of his death is bullshit.
Laurel Canyon guy.
No, don't apologize.
Laurel Canyon guy, you're right.
Because when we recorded with Miguel from Aeon Bites, like on the Elvis episode, we talked about this, like how there is kind of a dialectical reciprocity between like a performer and the audience. And if if the performer's tapped in, like we were saying, Elvis was tapped in, he got it, right? He thought he was like a Hyperborean prince or whatever, so he was like the Hode Rising, Hermes, whatever. So
I'm not going to say Elvis was a process member, Jim, but he definitely knew the process.
He was process. I knew right away.
I went way deeper since that conversation. I'm like, oh my god, what the hell's going on here with this Manson situation with Elvis?
We need to do a backup on that one then.
Yeah, I really would have liked to have. I even said that with Julia. I said I really would have liked to have us maybe covered some more of Elvis, but not in the same way that episode was done. Because if anything, I think it gave us more ammo to look in different areas about the guy.
Absolutely, dude. I had no idea. As much stuff I've looked into Elvis.
As soon as I heard that Manson shit, I'm like, yeah.
I was like, how have I never, like, because I know a lot of shit about Elvis and a lot of shit about Manson, but I was like, how have I never discovered this?
Even me, as an occultist, if somebody asked me to do that job, I'd be like, ask me in a year. I show up in 3 days. Everybody's going to think, regardless, that I'm fucking involved with you people. Like, just keep it real. Like, it's just kind of, you're going to look bad doing that. And if you still need somebody to come by the house, ask me in a year. Maybe I'll change my mind. But no, not right now. If
I may put two bookends in our last few minutes conversations here, folks, I wanted to point out the Laurel Canyon Houdini home owned by Rick Rubin, and or at least has been owned by Rick Rubin in recent years. And the guess what I'm getting at with all these kind of connections with all these people, process, Scientology, politics, music, Hollywood, right? Like the fact that it seems that the process people are indeed everywhere. It's not, so it's fun to make fun of these Battlefield Earth and their space opera philosophies, but pardon me. Well, there we go. And but it's also notice these folks are they seem to wield an innumerable amount of power, right? So like, they're getting in places, they're infiltrating places, they're doing things, they're getting government funding from Narconon programs, et cetera. They're running programs all the time, doing Lord knows what else. But it's, back to that Bill Ayers guy as far as power goes, right? Bill Ayers and the Weather Underground, these folks skirting charges and whatnot, waging political warfare in this nation, seemingly of their Marxist values that they espouse. Scientology, generally speaking, is largely conservative, but you look at the process, they were Marxists, and so there are some kind of variations in some of the political views, I think, in these groups, but nonetheless, I think they're still one organization. They just have varying views in these factions, perhaps, as it works. But Bill Ayers there in the Weather Underground, which I said may in fact be an offshoot, it seems, of the process. A lot of evidence of that. I won't bore you folks with today in the details, but we'll certainly be diving into in the future in Operation GCD. The next process show. Bill Ayers, this is the kind of power I'm talking about. Bill Ayers, the son of the head of the Chicago Light and Power Company, the chairman of the board there, huge, wealthy family. He went on a bombing parade of bombing all these domestic terrorism stuff for many years and whatnot. You know, some of his folks got wrapped up with that Tupac Shakur's folks and that shooting, the Brinks Truck Armory robbery in New York. Clint knows what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And on September 11th, 2001, on the front page of the New York Times, there's an editorial printed by Bill Ayers. And the opening line is, "I wish I would have blown up more buildings." That's the level of power that where I'm talking about with the Weather Underground, Bill Ayers, the process, and the Scientology folks generally.
Damn.
Because that shit ain't a coincidence. That's the Thelemic ritual, and we're talking about a Thelemic offshoot cult, the head of which printing that on an editorial, you know, he can write it all day long. Who printed that? What was the forethought, planning, and procedures around getting that printed?
Well, that's what made me interested in the book, is because it's like, what system is he using? Like, can you map it to one of the Thelema offshoots? That's kind of like, even I think one of the ideas I had coming into the episode was like, can you look at it? Can you see like I would obviously use Kabbalah, but you can map different tendencies onto the tree, right? So it would make sense if he was approaching it like, I want to tell this story, and he's putting his like Thelemic, it's like the underlying language, it's the Twilight language, but the overtop is like the sci-fi layer. So that's like what they tell, like Heidi always jokes, like that's what they tell the Goyim, for Mormons, obviously, not for Jays.
Yeah.
For more than Mormons, but yes, definitely.
Yeah. A little. That's dual use.
Wasn't the Twilight language? Isn't that like the language to the subconscious? That is magic, right?
Well, it can be. It's like seeds of potential are there, and it depends on how much you buy in. That's a very chaos. I'm explaining in a very chaos magic way.
Yeah, like even I postulate like the way they teach the upper echelon priesthood holders that give all the quorum of the 70 how to speak. I mean, it's like a very singy, songy mesmerism. I think they're always casting.
Sound is is when you capture 4 elements in space. So giving it the 5th dimension, right? So it's the second most powerful after light, but light and sound are also the same thing. But it's the second most powerful vehicle of magic, because there's actually 2 kinds of speech. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make a long point about this, but there's gross and subtle speech. This is obviously a more tantric idea, but so there's like voxity. So you have the ability to, everything that you say carries with it its underlying meaning inherently. So everything you say, it's like a Bene Gesserit. That's the exact same idea. It's like they use the command voice, but every time they speak, that it's command voice, and it's so subtle that you couldn't even tell. It's just in the pattern. Maybe you use like a little Kabbalistic language to, like, you know, make it a little colorful, and that's your package. But it's like it's like a subtle manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
That's
I would agree 100%, because they control the lighting. They control like everything. When you think about Conference, I don't know if you've ever watched Conference, Jen, but it's horrific. But anyway, like the way they speak is, I definitely have always postulated that they're casting, in my opinion.
Interesting.
That's the only context in which you understand that, I think, Heidi, is that it is some sort of ritual casting magic stuff, because it's such a weird thing to watch. It's not even like, at least the Catholics, they light some incense and they make some music into it. It's just very dry, but it's all, you know,
people fall asleep. They fall asleep. It's mesmerism.
It's soothing. Okay, you ever fall asleep being soothed, guys? It's very fun.
Except those of us that see through it and we're screaming in our heads, but that's okay.
Man.
I'm like, get me out of here. What is happening?
I negotiated my way out of almost every one of those conferences, Heidi. I couldn't do it. After I went to one, I was like, I will do every chore, this house, the house next door, the house down the street. I don't ever have to go back to that again.
Oh, it's bad. So bad.
Did you guys read Battlefield? Not all of you guys read it, right?
Oh yeah, we got detoured from. We were talking about battlefields here on Earth. We're supposed to be talking about Battlefield Earth.
No, but you guys didn't read it, right?
I've read it.
I've never read it. I've seen it.
I was gonna say don't, because it's not a good book. But like it's just for anybody who doesn't know like what this is, and the only reason I'm saying this is because I want to get somebody like JJ who knows a lot about it, because I couldn't see a lot of what the application to Scientology was. So now he starts with an intro of this book. It's written in 1980, towards the end of his life, I think. And he said in the intro, he's like, I'm tired of writing about Dianetics and all of these things. I want to write sci-fi, old school sci-fi. And he talks about, gives this long thing of like examples of what science fiction is, what it's become. I take it he didn't like a lot of the Philip K. Dickification of sci-fi, and he wanted to write old school blam rocket, space fighting westerns, basically.
Well, that was his crew. Arthur C. Clarke, Isaac Asimov, all these guys. I'm going to say Ray Bradbury, but that ain't him. Is all the sci-fi writers from that time. Mm-hmm. They were all part of the same club with Forrest J. Ackerman was kind of the club leader, the famous monsters guy from Hollywood. And Forrest J. Ackerman would claim they were all doing Parsons' thing, the Agape Lodge of the OTO, and then Hubbard invented this new thing, Scientology. He says things and stuff like that, but it's Scientology. And then we all started doing Scientology for a while. We all started doing the new thing for a while.
Yeah.
So Crowley did try to warn him. He said he was a confidence man. And I mean, he took his girl, he started up his own deal, like all of it. So,
yeah. Oh, for sure. He stole most of his biography from his college roommate, Paul Linebarger.
I didn't know that.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Paul Linebarger, very interesting fellow. He was a sci-fi writer. He wrote under the name Cordwainer Smith. He also wrote the Army's Manual on Psychological Warfare for World War II.
Took a job. He took a job. You gotta make money, guys.
He took a job.
Well, it's just weird. All these sci-fi writers are involved in writing psychological warfare manuals for the Army.
You try keeping the lights on. You try keeping the lights on. Hey, come on. Yeah.
Well, did y'all know that Michael Aquino wrote a bunch of Star Wars fan fiction, and one time almost broke? I think he either tried to break in or broke into George Lucas's house, knocked on his front door, or property knocked on his front door and was trying to get him to publish it.
He could see that because George Lucas was into stuff. I mean, he's talked about it. He talked about how he was doing meditations on the tarot, how he was reading the I Ching, how he was doing Dion Fortune's Kabbalah. He talked about like that. Was the genesis of the lore. And I'm not like a super Star Wars person, but there is, I used to find it superficial. I'm just being honest. Like I used to find it very superficial, but actually now I actually can see that there is a metaphysics there. Whether I enjoy the films or not, I can put that aside and just say, I think that there is. So he thought he could remix it because that's Aquino's thing, right? That's what I always bring up, like the Conan the Hyperborean versus what all the other magicians love, which is Lovecraft. So everybody's talking about like the abyssal gods and all this, but Aquino he was interested in both, and he wanted to explore like how you could, I guess, weaponize the mythology in a magical direction. That's kind of even the crystal tablets. Like when he's writing the crystal tablets, yes, they're just books of rules and regulations for the Temple of Set. But if you're good at Kabbalah, and I'm not saying like I'm anything spectacular, I'm not, but you can see that's what he's actually doing. He's actually using lawyerly language to constrict the paths. So if someone joins, it's like all their oaths. It's like a very legal kind of way to do Kabbalah. Sorry, I didn't mean to derail.
No,
you're good, dude.
Lucas is kind of Dave McGowan writes about it in Weird Scenes in the Canyon, the Lucas being one of the cameramen to film the Altamont massacre at the Rolling Stones concert. Now he even says like, I don't know who shot what, like who was on there, but he was part of I think the USC film department that had all the major directors of what would become the 70s film and stuff. And there's rumors, and for anyone who doesn't know, the Altamont massacre was basically the Hells Angels just like killing a guy, like stabbing a guy to death. Multiple people died, but like there's one apparently caught on camera. I don't know if it's actually in the Rolling Stones Give Me Shelter documentary, which I think you can watch on like Max and stuff, but I haven't watched it yet. But apparently, and I don't know if this is on the Max copy, you can see a guy just getting absolutely destroyed by a Hell's Angel. There is reason to suspect that Lucas like filmed some of that, and maybe there was some ritualistic aspect of it. Even McGowan says, look, I don't know, but it is funny that he's involved in that. Like he's just there.
I don't think it's coincidence. And Rolling Stones, Process Church of the Final Judgment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Graham
A lot
Parsons.
of weird deaths around. A lot of weird ritual deaths around those guys.
I don't think anyone that is involved in any of these cults, whether it be the Process or Mormons or whatever, I don't think there's accidents, right? Like, and by the way, most superstars, like big movie stars, they've all got a kid that's dead. Like almost all of them. Like, oh, he just was too close to the blinds or whatever, like the treadmill cord or like the most random stuff. And all of them have it. I'm like, I know plenty of people. Not everybody has one dead kid.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It doesn't.
I can think of like 10 off the top of my head right now. Like since you said that, I'm like, it's crazy. It's a lot. Like Clapton,
including John Travolta,
Eric Clapton, Francis Ford Coppola. Yeah.
And then let's be honest, John Travolta's lost 2 kids, right? He lost that one Jet, but he also lost the fellow named Sage Stallone. Take one look at Sage Stallone and tell me that his father is Sylvester Stallone.
Uh-oh.
That's
another Jackie thing. Another Jackie. Uh-oh.
So Travolta and Stallone have been tight for many years. In fact, Stallone directed and choreographed the film Staying Alive, starring John Travolta. They got him real greased up. You know, Stallone while he was getting real greased up while directing Travolta while he was getting greased up. But yeah, they go way back, and that's you look at Sage Stallone and he looks just like John Travolta.
It goes back to John D, our buddy here. You swap the wives and she gets pregnant, you get to raise the kid. So
yeah. Well, I mean, when you're doing these sex cult stuff, I mean, Travolta's a Scientologist. It seems like Stallone had a lot of Scientology connections, including his early agent, I believe it was. And then, you know, he had that weird start in porn and all those kind of things. I mean, you know, you look at these sex cults and it's like, well, they're probably all just banging each other.
For sure.
That's why you got OJ's daughter growing up as a Kardashian.
Definitely.
He's a Scientologist. He went clear. You're going to tell me that you want to be an enlightened being like Orenthal J. Simpson?
OJ was? I didn't know that.
OJ went clear. Yeah. He went clear.
Clear too.
Well before the murders.
That's a really interesting way to phrase that.
They were like, we found the all-time season or the single season rushing record to commit massive sacrifice murders for us. What a steal.
Wow. Huh.
Well, that was in my opinion, that was a Process Church related cocaine trafficking situation. There's cocaine everywhere, cocaine bobs everywhere around the situation. In fact, he was dating OJ's ex-girlfriend, the one that got called in around the time of the murders. So, you know what I mean? Paula Barbieri.
Yeah.
So that was Bob's girlfriend at the time. And then they're like, oh, we don't know who could have committed these murders. One of the chief witnesses for the state was dating a mob hitman. And Nicole Brown's sister was dating a mobbed up hitman in Los Angeles. And they're like, we have no idea what kind of organized crime outfit could have committed these kind of organized crime outfit murders. Certainly not the victim's sister's boyfriend. That couldn't have happened. In fact, we'll call her in as a witness.
Well, that's a good cover.
But yeah, Orenthal J. Simpson, Scientologist for sure.
Wow.
Proud Scientologist. That's why you see him with Priscilla Presley in the Naked Gun series.
Oh.
Proud Scientologist Priscilla Presley.
I knew she was. I didn't know about him though. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
How do you think
he got
my
mind, JJ?
That's the power of Xenu.
Yeah.
Xenu.
I mean,
Xenu channel.
That's how they'd get me. They'd be like, hey, dude, you can be the league's leading rusher for here. I'll be like, oh, man. I'll tell you guys anything. Record it. I don't care. Yeah.
Gerbil's coming in. Gerbil's coming in.
Get the gerbil.
Yeah.
I had to do it.
Fine, guys. Fine. I really want this record. Fine. Yeah.
It's okay. It's totally fine. Do what you want. They said it was a coffee enema. I didn't know. Okay.
Oh, man. I thought it was detoxifying my liver.
I'm sorry.
Damn, man. Damn.
I'm saying these folks are everywhere. And when Heidi's saying that these folks are going to come together, I like to joke that they're going to come together like Voltron. They're ancient alien cargo cults come together like Voltron. They look separate. They're going to come together like Voltron.
Catholics too.
Yep. Catholics, Mormons, Scientologists, or Jehovah's Witnesses. They all do their own function within these ancient alien cargo cult networks, in my opinion. And one day they're just going to be like, all right, it's the time to blast off. We're out of here, folks. And I'm like, let them go. Just folks like Elon Musk, let him launch himself to Mars. Let him go. I mean, let all these people launch themselves out of here.
I'll never stop anybody from leaving Earth.
Yeah, you want to launch yourself out? Yeah, try it. Go ahead.
Go.
I wish
Bye.
that rocket simulation thing like 2 weeks ago with all the ladies on it. I wish that just kept going. Just keep going.
That was so stupid. They can't
exactly,
keep going.
Katy.
They didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah.
They just
Ship
put
Katy
on
Perry out of
lipstick.
here, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Just get her out. Just keep going. Like, no,
Yeah,
guys, go further.
So,
Keep
she's
going.
the Pope. She can't leave now.
That's true.
It's so
Yeah, she's
bad.
just doing Kabbalah. That's all that was. That whole thing.
Yeah. Humiliation ritual.
I don't even think it was that. I think that they take them like up however high they can even go. In
Do you think
reality,
they really
not.
even went up?
I think
They
they went into
did.
some zero G thing, if we're being really honest. But I think, okay, we'll just say it was real, whatever that even means. So they went up as high as they go, and they're like, oh, it's touching the pleroma. Like you could describe it as that, like a Gnostic experience. Like you're sort of breaching, the veil of the worlds. You're crossing the abyss in the most literal way because you're crossing through space and time at the same time.
The
So it's
one
not
lady
like
that
what- Sorry,
was
Heidi.
Oprah's friend. No, I interrupted you. The one lady that was Oprah's friend, she's like, but have you gone to space? And I'm like, you are stupid. You make women look so stupid. I'm just like,
Oprah?
It was Gail
her
King.
friend.
Oprah Winfrey,
It was her
the
friend.
marketing agent
Her
for that
friend.
Brazilian
Yeah.
sex cult, child sex trafficking cult.
Ugh, exactly. And I just shake my head and go, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
how is it that these women are not even that hot and guys are still like, and they're so hot and great. Look at them. And I'm like, this is the end of humanity. That's fine.
Yeah. What were you saying, JJ,
So,
about
that's all-
the? Yeah, you just said something prior. Go ahead.
Well, I was just making a remark. I was making a retort about Oprah Winfrey. How does she still walk the earth without getting questions about stuff?
Because she
was
has
a
all the
marketing
money.
Agent. She got some money, but she was a marketing agent for that Brazilian sex trafficking cult leader, John of God.
John of God, yeah. That shit was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
She did so many events for that dude, had him on a show and stuff, dude. Like, she did a lot of kids got diddled as a result of Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, yeah, they're all involved for sure. 100.
And her wife was on that ship, right? Or her beard was on the spacecraft, right?
Gail King.
Yeah, no, she was. Yeah,
Gail King was on
that's
the
who I mean.
spacecraft, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought you were talking about. I couldn't think of her name. Yeah, that's her beard. Get
I
out of
can't-
town. That's definitely her beard. Let's get it. Let's get real.
They both took down Charlie Rose together so Gail could get her own show. And yeah.
So bad.
Yeah. Well, look at Oprah Winfrey's husband. He's like a little dainty looking fella. You know what I mean? They look like the weirdest looking couple too. Like when you see her with old Gail, which they're always together. He's never around. You know what I mean?
No.
Like you never see him around. You always see her, and it's you can kind of tell. You know what I mean? There's an appearance there.
Oh,
And just the frequency of him
100%.
never being there is a good indicator, right?
Well,
Hey, where's
just
your
the
husband? I don't
fact,
know. There's Gail.
just the fact they're all in the ring together. It just, I just see it. And what makes me laugh is so many people still think crap like that is real, and not what Jen said. It's like a ritual.
No, I could definitely see
And then-
Oprah
yeah.
and her beard being a cultist. I could see
Well, they
that.
just think of
Exactly.
it. I mean, you could think of it just like Scientology. You can just say, okay, they're going clear. Because what is clear? Clear is really turquoise. It's a very like old fashioned Kabbalah idea. It's like the color of turquoise, which can also be the day sky or the night sky, because both of those colors, lapis and turquoise, are really the same thing. That's kind of how it's considered. So yeah, they're touching the, the pristine clarity of God. That's how they would think of it. It's not even that big of a deal because like it's like when Nick always says you're not supposed to, you're supposed to have a magical experience in your mind. It's not that, whatever that is. Like, yeah, maybe that's spiritually profound or whatever. But I mean, she was acting like very weird afterwards.
Definitely. Very,
I think all
very
space is occult stuff.
supreme being. She was like, I went to space and you didn't. So, and then
That's true.
Katy Perry kissing the dirt. I was like, get up. What are you doing? You're so weird.
Well,
But if you look at the folks who invented
Uranus-
Space Force,
Sorry,
go ahead,
Jay.
Jen.
No, I was just saying that actually what Heidi just said was interesting because it's like the Uranus and the Chronos. It's like the sky and the primordial earth.
That makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Above and below.
Well, at least that makes some sense of the situation. Because when I seen it, I was like, this is stupid. This is so stupid that I can't. I mean, it's just funny to me that people don't see through it. And they're like, did you see this cool thing? And I'm like, this is why I don't have friends. So I have you guys, but I'm like, yeah, I can't talk about this like that. Like you, okay, that's fine. Yeah, keep walking.
If you look at who invented Space Force, aside from the Catholics, the modern travel rockets, these are L. Ron's buddies. This is Isaac Asimov. This is Arthur C. Clarke. The folks that also, for some reason, when the Apollo that cut out my back.
Oh yeah, you're good.
Yeah, Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov also, strangely enough, besides inventing rockets and space travel before science came up with these concepts, like they came up with them first, they were also doing the live broadcast of the Apollo 11 launch back in 69.
Yeah, and you
July,
talk about
July 16th, 1969 to be precise.
Yeah, and you talk about Arthur C. Clarke writes what book for Stanley Kubrick to adapt? I mean, 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's crazy. Like,
yeah,
it is crazy.
Well, it's even crazier when you see that, again, these are all L. Ron's friends. They're the ones bringing us space. They all seem to have a predilection towards children.
Yeah, what was the pulp publication that they all started under? Do you know? Because that I'd like to look into that. That's interesting. Like, it was an early pulp. They're all friends from their pulp days, and this is Battlefield Earth is like L. Ron Hubbard serializing like a year's worth of like a pulp story, essentially, is what he's doing. But they come from an old, I don't know if it's the same one as like Robert E. Howard and them from back in the day, but it was a similar process. And I wonder, like, what was that magazine all about?
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. It's an entire club of folks, and it spawns Marvel and DC Comics. The ringleader of the bunch is a guy by the name of Forrest J. Ackerman. He's a Hollywood legend in monster stuff. So yeah, that just reminded me of a different Scientology situation. I previously had secluded this other thought in the way back of my brain hole beneath a lot of bong resin and malted hops. But when we're talking Scientology and monster stuff in Hollywood and John Travolta, and this is not Forrest J. Ackerman related, but if you know the film Get Shorty,
yes.
So Get Shorty, Gene Hackman, who was high on my list as a secret Scientologist long before his mysterious death. He just did way too many films with Travolta and Cruise and other Scientologists. It's the sheer volume of times you're acting opposite of a known Scientologist. Where I'm like, wait a second, buddy, what's going on here? But he plays the kind of B-rate horror film dude, right? Like in Hollywood, right? That's his character in Get Shorty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that, in my opinion, that's Roger Corman, legendary B-rate film horror director, and very close friends, BFFs, if you will, with Cocaine Bob Evans.
Mm-hmm.
So, this weird kind of, again, this, the Scientology, it's the Scientologists making movies, telling stories about other Scientologists, you know what I mean? But, they all seem to have some weird, you asked me, they all have weird predilections. Maybe Travolta's isn't kids, but he's certainly got handsy with a number of masseuses, it seems. And I can attest to him being a little bit, handsy myself, so not thankfully not as bad as those masseuses. I was like, wait a second, John, let's back it off here now. But
he's like, get off of me.
Yeah, I was like, this is inappropriate, friend.
Well, it's interesting.
You know what I mean? They all seem to be into weird stuff, right? Like weird sexual stuff, right?
JJ's like, listen, I don't need no Roy Cohn picture, bitch. Back it up. What were you saying, Jen?
Oh, I just wanted to say that it's interesting that you brought up Roger Corman, because obviously he did all those Argentinian sword and sandal movies. So it is sort of like what I was referring to, is like there's a division between like who prefers the Hyperborean mythos and who prefers the Lovecraftian. So you were saying like monster creators, like people who did special effects makeup. Those would, that you would be drawing more from that mythology. Right? Because that's what that mythology is more about. Whereas the Hyperborean mythology is like you as the hero, you as the Shem, you as the adamantine man or the magician or whatever. So it's like a different preference. It's like the difference between like Martinus and Rosicrucians.
Well, yeah, and you think about that in terms of like the pulps, right? What were the two big pulp things, or two out of the big three? You had Western, you had crime, and you had sci-fi, right? So that's a good way. You know, Elmore Leonard, I think, started in the pulps too, which he did get Shorty, the novel. And I don't know if there's any connection there, but you talk about like all the guys coming from the pulps, and then you got the guys coming from the sci-fi stuff. And the terms Jen said are the Hyperborean one, which is a more fantastical one. But if you could cover that all in magazines that get readily distributed, because this is how people read back then. Like, not everyone was writing novels. It was a very lucrative thing for fiction authors to do. This is how L. Ron Hubbard first started making a bunch of at least on the record money.
No, for sure. And I cut out there for a minute, so I missed Jen's statements there. But if I could put a bookend here, like cut out again.
No, you're good.
Back.
You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
What I was getting at there with all these folks is you know, this whole sci-fi writers crew is they're all kind of doing these weird sexual proclivities, generally with children.
Oh yeah.
And with Arthur C. Clarke so bad that the British government banished him to Sri Lanka. That's pretty bad when you got Prince Andrew, his uncle Seville, you know, Clement Freud. Clement Freud's a sick son of a bitch. Sigmund Freud's grandson. They're all running around the UK, and they said, Arthur, you're doing too much. You got to go to Sri Lanka. So what I'm saying is, is this an occult thing that these guys are bending our ideas of space? They're diddling kids to a Sri Lankan level. You know, what's going on? Is this magic? What are we talking about here? You know, because that's really what I think is, you know, L. Ron was trying to sell here in Battlefield Earth on a large commercial scale is these ideas. And whatever they're doing with this nexus point of their strange activities within these sci-fi crew that have invented the ideas of rocket and space travel and everything else that we see, you know, in these later things like, you know, lots of stories, but, you know, things like Battlefield Earth, you know, which I'm assuming is, again, trying to perpetrate these ideas on a larger scale, but there seems to be something deeper into this occult aspects of it to me. I don't know enough about the occult. I'm just saying, like, it's weird to me that you're going to invent these ideas of space. This group of sci-fi writers do it on a mass, you know, publication scale, and then these people are also into just weird kid stuff, just, you know, magic stuff too. But I'm just saying the weird kid stuff.
Well, what if you really believe?
Seems to coincide, right, with the magic stuff, right? Let's go hand in hand at times, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if they really believe they're channeling spirits? Like Heidi often talks about this.
I think they really do.
Yeah. We're all getting demon stuff through the movies, dude. Is that what you're saying to me right now?
Well, if they really believe it, like, I don't believe in that. Like, I don't believe they can even do it. So I
think you might be right.
Anti-supernaturalist perspective, which is more my perspective. So I don't, but regardless, they believe that they can, and they believe that they're speaking to spirits. So if as we said, like, you can divide the hosts, the angels, into each sephira. There's like a classification and a hierarchy, and like who you get with what name you call. So that's really what they're doing. They're like,
but I don't think I think the angels lie to them, just like John D said.
Yes,
and they're demons, not.
Well, it's not necessarily demons. Yeah. It's that they have their own.
Well, they call them. I mean, we have to.
I totally get it. I'm
outer realm, whatever. Yeah. Outer realm.
Yeah, we'll
call them hosts.
We
won't call them angels. We'll call them hosts.
Okay, that's fine. Mine host is, that was a process term, so I don't know if I can use that term.
Oh, okay. Then we won't. Okay, I apologize. That's actually
there's really higher realms. The highest realm. Right. Like, you can't contact the highest realm if you're clear down here unless you know your shit. And so what you're going to get when you start doing this Solomonic magic is you're going to get the lower realm first, and they're going to lie their ass off to you. And then they're going to use all this weird kiddie stuff and debauchery to power up. They're good
for sure. No, you're spot on. You're spot on, Heidi.
What if the entities, though, are really expressions of like the darkness of their own mind? Like, just think of it in a more conceptual way, like the mind as the carnograph.
Like a Plato's cave scenario, dude. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
Do you think that can that act as an agent in just manifestation? I mean, I don't know if manifestation's real or not, but like, I mean, let's just say, you know, even if you believe that you believe, are you not contributing to some collective pool of other people doing that? Like, in that sense, does it make it somewhat real at that point?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you think of a giant marshmallow man.
In my opinion, for sure, I think they're channeling, but not always, because not everyone's an adept magician. So I think Jen is right. There are people that it could go sixes. Like, these people over here are magicians, but these people over here might just be not as stable and in their own head and like still contributing to that debauchery pool, that cesspool. Sure. So it could be multiple things, you know.
Well, that's what it is. It's like that's even with the factions with Process. That's talking about like the Hollywood connections from Scientology. Like the people don't have to all be in alignment, and maybe that's a big obviously.
Oh, they're not.
Process loves
Yeah,
this
no,
swastika, right?
It helps if they're not.
Right,
they're
exactly.
not. Yeah. I don't think
because
they are.
It's decoherent. It's like all the you can kind of capture people more. It's more attention grabbing if things are decoherent because they're like, you know, we always joke
chaos.
like if you have daddy issues,
yeah,
right. Maybe you'll become a neo-pagan because like you have issues with daddy gods. So then you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna worship like these other gods, but they're really just the opposite of the thing that you came for, or maybe even the same thing in many cases. So it's like, you can only achieve that when you have other options. So you have like the multiple permutations of Scientology X Process.
Well, and you can achieve only what you believe. So like what you said, if somebody's a magician or messing with magical stuff, that doesn't mean everyone is. That's for the elect. That's for like the top of the top that have had the access somehow to get into a mystery school type situation. But the rest of these people, like I always say on my podcast, because people say to me, oh, this is so new age, or this is oh, skip this episode. I'm like, listen to me. It doesn't matter what you believe. It matters what they believe, because what they believe is charging the shit.
I see.
So, yeah, even if it's not real, like Jen said, like even it could be, maybe so, but it depends on who we're working with.
Is the buy-in, I guess, kind of the real magic in a sense?
Sometimes. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think Nick can attest. Like this is for. Solomonic magic is nothing to be played with on a minuscule level. It is big, you know? And so, yeah, I don't think normal people would touch it. So
I don't think most people would even like
in some ways.
That's even the whole problem when I think people get into the Goetia is they totally forget like the I don't know, was it 3 or 4 of the books prior to that you're supposed to read about angels.
Right.
It's like, no, I'm just going to start with the Goetia, you know, totally at the end of the series. Just gonna play with that.
Because you can join the 144 names,
right?
Because they're really names of the same thing, the same entity. I'm not saying I believe it. I'm just saying that's what they believe. So.
But if they believe it, and here's the thing, Nick's right. Like that's what I say about Joseph Smith. That I really do think he was a magician because Crowley tips his hat. So I really do think he channeled, but he didn't do what Nick said and read the previous books to protect his ass. And then he made his stupid Jupiter talisman wrong. So he died. That's what happened.
Well, I think he definitely came from like one of those families, we'll call it, not bloodline, but families that played in the polarities, right? Because he's a Salem family. He inherited the Bible / grimoire, et cetera. And so I, as I've told you, Heidi, many times, like I don't dislike. I find Joseph Smith very fascinating, personally.
Yes.
But I'm not a Mormon. I'm not affiliated. I don't want to be a Mormon. I'm just clarifying that. But I do find Joseph Smith very compelling, maybe.
But here's the thing, not everybody's at that level. So I think you're right too. Like it's not one person is right. I think it's multitudes of things because you're right too. Whereas most people don't even know what the Goetia is. Go walk up to 10 people on the street. They're not going to know what you're talking about.
Like, you ask that question on my part, they're going to think you're talking about sausage like Geta.
You know, they will. Like people don't know. Even if you start saying like folk magic, maybe they'll know that word, but they're not going to be playing with these things. So I think Jen's right too, where some people are in their own heads and look at how many people they're like, oh, I'm so important. And I think that's what the movie stars do. And they're just Goyim too. They're just a higher level Goyim most of the time. Not always. But.
I heard your comment about Joseph Smith, Jen, and you claim not to be Mormon. I'll appreciate you out yourself as not a Mormon. Never asked you that question, so I'm glad you clarified that. But
Jen the Ninja, not a Mormon.
My fault for not Jen the Ninja, not a Mormon. It's more my dilemma and fault not asking you that, not verifying. I asked Glenn if he was a Scientologist. I also didn't ask him if he was a Mormon, so I failed again.
Not a Mormon.
But Glenn,
we're safe. We're all marked safe. All marked. We weren't marked safe yesterday. We weren't marked.
Oh yeah, I don't know what was up with that.
So I like to look at Joseph Smith this way, Jen, to piggyback on your comment. Is I I look at him like Charles Manson. He's kind of a part of American folklore, right? He's this very intriguing character. Did a lot of the same things, in fact. But he's a very intriguing character. He's very much a part of the American folklore, the landscape of American folklore.
Right. Yeah.
As much as apple
it.
pie or baseball.
So I'll say this. So I'll retract my thing about not being a Mormon. I'm definitely not a Mormon.
You are a Mormon?
No, I'm not a Mormon.
Oh, you just retracted that.
I did retract it because I'll say this. I am interested in like speculative American Gnosticism. I think that's a really interesting idea. And I think that's what they were all interested in too.
Sure.
So I'm not saying that I'm like them or I'm trying to like do what they were doing, but I would like to explore deconstructing the ideas and maybe even like looking at the fictional ways like the novel of how they kind of, I'm saying the movie failed, but the movie is an imperfect vehicle. The word is more metaphysically potent, but you have to get the eyes on the book. Like Glenn was saying, like people have to have a buy-in, whether it's like just reading it, that's a buy-in. But then it's like up to your levels of discrimination. That's why Hesed and Gebra, I know I talk about this so much, but yeah, that's why those things have to go together.
I talk about the Mormons too much. Don't feel bad.
Okay, well, that's why those things have to come together in synthesis, because it's like the discrimination with the perception at the same time. Like you have to be able to discern what you're seeing. You can't just believe it all. So that's the fire in the water thing. And I also think if I was a Mormon, I would actually tell you that, the world's going to end in water or the world's going to end in fire. You would pick a side, but I'm saying the Tiferatic reasoning is stronger. So I'm saying meat and synthesis.
Just because I say that they aren't what I would do, remember my whole problem with them is not the history, not the studying, not all of it, is that they're liars.
Lack of honesty.
They lie their asses off and harness the energy. So here's my problem is, like I said on the show the other day, what we were on, I said, listen, I got no problem with the church if they would come out and say that they're just a magical order. And then there was silence and we moved on. So
maybe that's what you're here to do, Heidi. Maybe you're here to like say like, yeah, we're coming on.
Right. Like just be truthful and let them use their own magic and stop using people. I hate that. So
I appreciate your thoughts there, Elder Jen. You sound like what you're describing is not to trust the lower demons that Heidi was.
You got to change your name now. It's going to be Elder Jin the Ninja. Or you have to say Jin the Ninja, not the Elder.
Jin the Elder.
Frater
My apologies.
Jin.
Jin.
That would give me a lot of occult cachet on IG.
The Mormons go Elder.
To Frater Jin. Oh yeah, I would get all the occult accounts would follow me for sure.
What name?
So
what name?
Frater.
Oh, I've
Frater Jin.
Yeah, Frater Jin.
That's a very pop occult, right? That's kind of pop occult, right?
I mean, they're all talking about it though. They're all being like, "Oh, we need to remake."
And we'll call Nick Breuer Nick, and we'll call Heidi Sawyer Heidi. Because we're stupid.
Oh, see, if you realized, I've already changed my name. I don't think anybody noticed. Since people can just call themselves doctors and they're not, I'm going to say I'm a cardinal.
Oh, you're a doctor, right? You're not a doctor?
No, but I mean, if you don't have to be, you could just call yourself.
I guess.
So I'm a cardinal. I'm the cardinal of the occult rejects. So now whenever I say anything occult, you can't even question me because I have that fucking fake name.
We have to. Now listen, since we're all occult rejects, when we come on, we have to give our homage to Cardinal Nick.
There you go. Pay tribute.
Some of the stupidest shit I've ever
That's what I do every episode. Whenever Nick invites me on.
That is true. You call him boss.
Mr. 33. Yeah.
Cardinal Hefe over here.
See, I respect the hierarchy.
I'll make a joke.
Right.
Glenn's like, I have no idea what the fuck's going on.
Glenn's like, what the hell are they talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm all for like titles before your name. Just everybody's a doctor until proven otherwise. And usually they prove otherwise. So
Sorry.
Because they have just fake ones on Twitter. You go on there and it'll be a guy with like 60,000 followers. It's like, hey, guys, take every shot right now. Every single one.
Oh my gosh.
Or else you're a demon. And they just do that. And then you're like, what are your credentials? And they're like, just some
demons.
Yeah.
I'm a Democrat.
Demon stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I'm a doctor. Obviously, that's my credentials. So, if there as much of a doctor as you are a cardinal. So And the other
Well,
that I forgot.
I am a nurse, and I really am a nurse. So there's that.
There you go.
And that's true. Yeah. And actually I found it funny the other day because there was an explanation that I'd never heard before. And I wondered if it was because I actually am in the medical field, but that was just my suspect. So we can cut this part out.
I'm really
We got Fred and Jim.
not the vice president. I'm not just playing one here on the Occult Reject.
I wish you were the vice president. Yeah.
I'd
Not the
vote
vice
for you. I'd vote for you. Just run, dude.
And Jin is
Yeah.
going by Friday Jin now. So
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh.
I didn't
Yes.
change it.
I
Nick
did.
Do it.
There you go.
I changed it a minute ago.
But you
actually.
should be. But it makes so much more sense.
He's like,
I don't want to join an order. I already got asked.
And-
I get
and-
asked this all the time. Literally.
And
That
also,
wouldn't be very
Jin.
kino, would it? That wouldn't be very
Also,
kino.
you
would it,
guys,
Jin?
It's not very
JJ, Jin,
So he's gonna be like,
everybody,
they're both in the
the
OTO still.
FLDS do. If you go back to the olden days of Joseph Smith, they did call each other Breuer and Sawyer. In the Mormon FLDS church, they still do.
Do they?
And if you know about magical orders, as Nick and JJ, I'm sure Jin, you guys know that's a magical name.
Yeah, well, even in the OTO, well, you got a brother, and sister, and siblings once you become a member.
Yep, but they literally say Breuer and
That's
Sawyer
that's
still
interesting.
in the
Six man
FLDS.
agnostic family.
Yes.
Oh, Breuer.
I'm
Sorry, I cut
telling
out
you
there,
guys.
Heidi. I mean,
Oh, you're good. I find it fascinating, and I only know that because my sister married the one of the top pliggies out there. So no disrespect to anybody, but he was Warren Jeff's nephew. So
Oh,
yeah, right, yeah, they're
yikes.
divorced now, but he's a nice guy. He's out.
That's
He's
good.
out. Yeah, but yeah, it got weird.
I'll say. I mean, that's a connection.
Oh yeah, it was, and poor him because like, what did he ever do? You know what I mean? He just trying to get out.
Being someone's
But
nephew. Yeah, you're someone's nephew.
but he went to Texas. Well, I mean, he was in it, and he wrote a book about this. But he went to Texas, and he was part of the whole thing, and then he got kicked out and all this stuff. But he was named in all the books when they arrested him, so they wouldn't give his kids back because they thought that he was in on stuff. He was supposed to be one of the next prophets, and so yeah, it was a whole.
Sounds like some politics might have played a role in that too, right?
Yeah, he didn't get him back. They gave him back to the polygamous people. I was like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you just give him back to her? She's just gonna. He never
Right.
saw him again for 8 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a
Sounds like Scientology and their disconnections.
right. It was. They gave away his wife before he even drove home. He got in trouble. He was supposed to report to the brethren, and before he even got there, they had already moved his wife, give her away, give his kids away.
Damn.
So,
They're
they don't play.
expedient. If nothing else, they're fast.
Well,
they
if
gotta make
anything,
more babies.
it proves that Scientology is using the same
Mm-hmm.
framework,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what makes me get real weird about life when I see an offshoot of Scientology, Nexium, aka what I like to now call the Albany chapter of the Process Church of the Final Judgment. They never closed; they just morphed into Nexium. They're on paper they're squirrels, if you will. Scientologists using L. Ron's practices outside of Scientology, they call them squirrels. So Keith Raniere was up there squirreling, not to be confused with Richard Gere and his gerbilin. Maybe they do the same.
Don't rule it out.
Yeah, don't rule it out. Can't be certain. Can't be
Oh
certain.
man.
So,
Oh, man.
it's weird when they're down there in Mexico running child sex trafficking operations. The stuff Raniere got convicted for and Allison Mack, rolled over on him about. They're employing nannies from the LeBaron fundamentalist Mormon cult.
You do not
Okay.
want them watching your kids. They might be dead when you get
Keith
home.
Raniere wanted them watch kids. They're the
Yeah.
same. There's some young lady.
Oh boy,
Uh-oh.
the gremlins got him again.
I know.
Damn.
JJ,
Oh,
come
we
back.
might have
Am
lost
I
him.
back? Am I back?
Oh,
Yes,
This
you're
thing
back.
on?
I thought the gremlins merged it
You're
this
back.
time.
Yeah, so those Nexium nannies from Albany to Mexico, the child farms in Mexico, to the headquarters of their mothership in Albany, Half Moon Lake, I think is the name of the town outside of
That's
Albany.
a
But
weird
nonetheless,
connection. That is weird.
yeah, they were employing those girls as nannies, and they get murked when Raniere's on trial. They get murked, right, by a
Well,
Mexican drug
because the
cartel.
LeBarons, the LeBarons don't have any problem murking anybody. I'm just saying.
Well, they were the LeBaron. I mean, they may have been. You telling me this is a Mormon Meadows massacre situation?
Oh, that is such an
yes,
interesting.
So there is. Yes, there's.
We're talking a 2019 LeBarons Mormon massacre situation.
Yes.
I never even considered that. That makes a lot of sense to me, actually.
You know, I've always thought was weird
yes.
about that, the Meadows massacre.
So you're saying it wasn't the Mexican drug cartels, the LeBarons did it themselves. Damn it, Heidi, that's a good point.
I'm sorry, but yes.
Yo, doesn't that shit
Yeah.
fall
Well,
around the whole?
You know, Ranieri's on. They're getting hemmed up there in court in New York City for all these child sex trafficking. These girls are witnesses.
Yep. They have no problem taking out their own, and they have proved it in the past. So
Yeah,
That's a great point. That is a great point.
I find that situation.
What were you saying, Nick? I think
yeah, it's all right.
What were you saying, Nick?
I find that situation very, very weird. That whole metal, whatever mountain massacre.
we're actually talking
Yeah.
about the LeBaron massacre. The LeBarons shot each other up, brothers and everything. We should do a show on that because
Oh,
it's
yeah, they were murking themselves,
crazy.
weren't they? That's right.
Yes, yeah, they
For-
were
for
killing
control of
each
power
other.
within the family.
Was Joseph
And-
Smith around during
But
that
I
time?
like the idea of this.
No,
Oh, go ahead, Nick. What was that?
Was Joseph Smith around during that time?
no, this was
Okay.
a Brigham job,
Yeah.
Okay.
Brigham boy.
The Mormon Meadows massacre, the old false flag where the natives did it, right? I mean,
I mean,
I'm saying,
let's
like,
see.
did the LeBarons pull that again? And like, yeah, the Mexican drug
Well,
cartels did it.
they've been playing that game for a long time because, well, we know that Joseph's great great grandpa was the head of the Boston Tea Party, and what did they do? They blamed it on the Native Americans. Oh,
Yeah.
funny.
It's a family
They
way
just
right
like
there.
to do that. Yeah, that's a playbook for sure. Yeah, 100%. So
Isn't the
weird fact.
the dates on that Mountain Meadows massacre?
It's
It's like-
September 11th.
Yeah. Or they said it's between September 7th or the 11th. I've seen, and I'm like, well, now
The
you get.
11th is the massacre date.
And I was like, but
they-
if you incorporate the 7th, that also takes out Building 7. So I mean, it's even more symbolism in that.
Oh.
And I've always
started-
found it interesting how
like-
you do get the MMM out of that. I'm not saying that's
Oh,
directly
Mountain Meadow
to
massacres.
Crowley. Well, Meadow Mountain, right? Is that what it's called?
Mountain Meadow.
Mountain Meadows
What's the
Massacre. Yeah,
MMM?
there were 3 M's.
MMM.
And you
Yeah.
have Oliver Crowdry, which is very close to Alistair
Oliver
Crowdry.
Cowdery. Yes.
So I do wonder about him honestly ripping off Mormon history in his shit.
I'm telling you.
Or like Mormon
did a
stuff. Yeah, I
lot
think
of
he
nods.
has. I think he has.
Yeah.
Well, that's
What's
kind
the-
of the idea,
what's the
right? Is
triple
that
M?
they recycle the same
He's the master of
stories
synthesis.
over and
Yes.
over and over. A master of synthesis.
Oh,
But,
yes.
I actually prefer different stuff for us. So,
Yeah.
just saying. But no, it
So-
makes sense. They're
well-
recycling the same westward story, right? Because
Yep.
they're playing out the
Yep.
biblical narrative, right, as they go. Book
Yep.
of Enoch. Like they're saying it's
Sacrifice.
real. They're saying, okay, maybe it's real, maybe it's not real, but it happened here. So like
Mhm.
Utah is the center, but then we also know that there's like some kind of longitudinal line or something that they thought was magical that connects Utah to Mexico City. So I mean that basically explains like Mormonism in a nutshell. They're like magicians who prefer like a particular ley line.
Only
So you're saying
certain
this Mountain
ones.
Meadows massacre situation is like a psyop psychodrama. It's not just a psyop, but it's an occult ridden psychodrama.
Yeah, I mean that's how I think that's how Mormons like do
Blood
all their
rituals.
things.
A blood
But it
ritual.
can also be it can
Sure.
just be the way they describe things too. Like people can totally lie, right? In fiction, that's the power of fiction. That's why all
Right.
the
Yeah.
that's why like Glenn was
Nazis.
saying, like all the pulp writers,
Nazis.
they started with each other.
Yeah.
You know what's? I was just thinking. This is like really weird. Like let's entertain that Crowley was pulling some ideas from those stories. Then when we go to 9/11, our 9/11, and all the plane numbers are associated with Crowley books. Like what the fuck?
Yeah.
How the fuck does that happen now?
Exactly.
Like he's still a connection between both.
He's because the next magicians tip their hat to him.
No,
Because
9/11
all-
was obviously Babylon working.
Yeah, it's all hat
I
tips.
mean,
you
the
know.
buildings you could say were the Kaaba. They even were black tinted and they had gold compressed Sufi writing, right? The
Twins.
surahs
They had the twin.
in gold. So that's very like Merkaba in Saudi Arabia. that's very Tiferatic, actually. People often think it's like black cube of Saturn. And yeah, there's an element of that. But really, because it's glass, you have to say it's more Tiferatic. It's more brittle. It's more of the sun. It's more easily destroyable. So they obviously were like, and those were built in like 1977. It's like,
yeah, by the Rockefeller brothers. Who would like to point out that old Nelson was one heartbeat away from being president. His lifelong dream just happened to be two Manson girls try to pop off old Gerald Ford.
Right. So they were built
the president.
Destroyed. It's like to usher in the new aeon, right? That's what this is all about.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Everybody has different preferences of like what they think that will be.
Yep.
Well, and especially
I agree with what you're saying.
Yeah. When you study the parchments, Joseph's ideals were very different than Brigham's. I would love to see what his family parchments are, but we will never know. Because they don't exist, apparently.
Yeah, I'm completely sold that was the 9/11 situation was a Thelemic ritual. This Babylon working stuff you're talking about here, Jen, sounds about what I recall reading about in William Ramsey's book, and he sold me on that idea years ago. And then, I've been long convinced that Barbara Bush is the daughter of Crowley.
I've heard this, and I'm not against it.
There's no definitive proof.
The dates
line. Yeah, there's no definitive proof. There's circumstantial evidence based upon his journals and the dates in which they were in the same house and the sex magic he was writing about doing.
Yeah.
Was there any...
And the birth date. So
go ahead. Sorry, JJ.
No, I'm just saying that seems like it's not even just the date of her birth and that her mother knew him. It's like they're in the same house. He's writing about doing sex rituals with the women in the house. And then the dates match up.
Mm-hmm.
And she looks just like him.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, that's she does look just
She's
like
very strapping, very gorgeous
strapping young man. Lady.
Yeah, very man lady, gorgeous man lady gal.
Yeah.
What's even scarier is some of George's daughters look just like him. Like, Lord of mercy, that's a strong gene they got there in that Crowley gene.
Be better to look like George, in my opinion.
Well, that's very, it's like very like I'm going to plant my seeds all over the world. Very literal way to say it. Like a more interesting, I think this is more me, but I think it's more interesting to do it with words because words are actually the seeds. If you really understand, if you really have the understanding. No, but words are really the seeds. So it's just conceptual, right? It's not literal impregnation, but a lot of them take it to mean that because, they're not very conceptual in their thinking, I guess.
They're literal. They're literalists. They want to.
Yeah, they're literalists. Just like another podcaster that we know. He's like very literalist with Book of Enoch.
Is he a
stuff.
Doctor? Oh, wait.
No, not him. There's a different one, but JJ famously asked him if he was a Mormon on live.
Oh.
Because he takes it very seriously. Like he takes it almost literally. Like he's talking about like real, whatever, all that stuff.
Yeah, nice guy. I was joking with him, but when after the show, obviously I saw in his philosophies the philosophies of Mormonism, and so I jokingly asked, "What are you, a Mormon?" And after the show, Jen sent me a message like, "I think that guy might be Mormon." Like, you saw it too. Okay, well, he's not the only one.
I thought it was a Gnostic.
Definitely Gnostic, no, but yeah, and that is really what the Mormon. A lot of the stuff he was saying that I recognize from Mormonism is Gnosticism, and
it is
a lot of Gnosticism in Battlefield Earth too, right? With all these mining of planets and these present planet ideas, right? These are all Gnostic ideas, right?
Well, I mean, again, not to beat a dead horse here, and
beat it.
JJ really is the one who said this. I just like to repeat it more, but you said something along this lines. When you really start looking at like kind of like a lot of conspiracy theories, and if you start throwing in, Christ in there, you get a lot of like Mormonism and Gnosticism. And I don't think like the conspiracy community actually realizes how indoctrinated they've actually already been in the things that they like to actually point at.
And then I have a show coming up on this, you guys. It's very Gnostic Mormons.
Because Gnosticism is really interesting, and it's because they made it taboo. I'm not even saying the institutional church. I'm just saying that there's been a cultural shift to kind of make it transgressive, cool, like there's the timing of the books and like even the texts that are preferenced. like that have been translated and distributed widely, like even in use by some of the guys who run the Gnostic churches. Like Nick, he just had one on that he runs that kind of Gnostic-y church. So, but those aren't even the whole
On a
body.
mound.
On a mound,
so
yes.
On a mound.
Yo, that was great
His
when I
fish is
asked him
on the
about
mound.
that face he made and then played it off that it wasn't important. I'm like, come on.
Yeah, he's like,
guy.
I do have it on a mound. He's like, wait a second, I shouldn't tell you. About
Yeah,
this
yeah, you
mound.
can even see his face change. Sorry that we interrupted you, Jen. It was just so obvious
No,
when we
that's
asked him that
okay.
question. Go ahead, man.
No, but I think that people I don't agree with his interpretation of Gnosticism at all, just to go on the record and say it. Like, I don't agree with him
I agree with
at
you
all.
not agreeing. I listened to that interview and I was not agreeing with any of it.
Like, I'm not literalist at all. I don't think it's meant to be transgressive. I think it's talking about Christianity in just like a very esoteric way. I don't think it's wrong. I actually think it aligns very much with the, we'll call it Kabbalistic intentions of like Christian theurgy or Christian hermeticism, whether you're talking about Pico or more Orthodox stuff. I think it perfectly aligns with that. I think it's just all about how you interpret it. Like, do you interpret it as like what the bad kids do? Because if you interpret it like that, you're going to be like more into the sex stuff, into the more transgressive stuff. But actually the texts for what we have, even if they're fragments, they explain this. They say like a lot of there's even a part of Hypostasis of the Archons where this angel says to Nuria, he goes like, everything that the Archons have said is a lie and lies are contained in words.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning
Same
the
as
things
John
that they
Dee.
say about people.
All lies. They always lie. Just remember that, you guys. If you think you're a magician or you think that angels or whatever have your best interest at heart, always remember these stories and about John Dee. They lie their ass off. So there's that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, even look at. I mean, they were known for lying and scamming, John Dee and Kelly. So I mean.
Yep. Well, interesting. Very interesting. I did not read the book, but I'm glad I was here for this chat because it's been fun.
Yeah, if I could say one thing about the pulp, I'm going down like a pulp or like kind of a 1900s pulp rabbit hole here. You know who else started writing in the pulps was Michael P. Hodel. I don't know if you know the last name Hodel. It is apparently the son. I think there was a thing about Michael P. Hodel who was born, and people don't know who his actual father is. People say it's John Huston. A lot of people, and everybody knows how weird John Huston is. But Hodel, the name George Hodel, was cleared from the Black Dahlia murder, which if anybody doesn't know anything about the Black Dahlia murder, only a few people could have committed it. Like surgically, right? Just only a few people. And George Hodel was the only guy, in my opinion, that was actually the suspect that could have actually done the, or what it could have, the body could have been taken. James Ellroy wrote historical fiction that suggests a kind of inbred child who nobody knows where he came from, was from a rich family, kind of inbred child, which leads me to the Hodel kind of situation, John Huston stuff, where he killed the body, what was a very disgusting sex crime, obviously, and then the body was prepared then after that and gutted and stuff. So all these people started in the pulps, and then this guy wrote in Weird Tales, which Weird Tales, Lovecraft, that's a big Lovecraftian thing. So it doesn't have a lot to do with L. Ron Hubbard, but it's like a whole nother
super interesting though. I love rabbit holes.
It might have more than you know.
Well,
the OTO loves Lovecraft with the Typhonian folks, the OTO offshoot.
Well, Elron is a lot more tied in if we listen to what Dana said. Say Dana said that Elron was the father of Michael Aquino.
She's building a stronger case as time goes by. That is something she alleges. And there's some circumstantial evidence to support that. There is for sure.
Right. I'm not saying I believe it or not. I'm just speculative.
No, I mean, well, it kind of tracks along with this whole club of this network. So when I say club of this network, so John Huston, George Hodel and gang, Hodel being the abortion doc to the stars, if you will. He lived in
Laurel Canyon, by the way. All Laurel Canyon, by the way.
Yeah. He lived in that Mayan home, right? The what's the name of that dude? The famous architect.
Yeah, Frank Lloyd Wright.
Thank you, sir. Frankly, yeah, that's a strange little.
Yeah, that's a magic
Mayan home.
Too. That's a very magical house. If you kind of know what he was into, it's like you can tell. It's like that's an occultist house. for
That
sure.
is
Like,
Like if I
that's
had that
like
money,
murder
I'd be in a
house.
house like
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. That's you both nailed it. That's exactly what I was getting at. It's a what are they doing? Ritual human sacrifice in this Mayan temple. What are we talking about? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
Yeah,
John Huston's underling was Jack Nicholson.
Yes. Oh,
The
absolutely.
Yeah.
His longest relationship was with Angelica Houston, then we bring in
Mm.
Roman Polanski with the fateful incident at Angelica Houston and Jack Nicholson's house. But George
Please
Hodel,
don't forget
what's that?
Bob Cocaine Evans in that group. They were. He was obviously in that mix as well. I just got to give credit to him in all these circumstances.
And you keep everybody high the whole time too. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
and Jack
Absolutely.
Nicholson's history is the same as Ted
Absolutely.
Bundy's, where my grandma's my mom,
And then the movie
my mom,
Chinatown.
grandma.
And then the
Yeah.
movie Chinatown is
Yeah.
all about incest murder. So it's just like, you know,
Yeah.
George, this is from Tellers of Weird Tales, this old blog. It's a good blog. But George Hodel fathered 11 children by 5 women. He had 4 sons with Dorothy Harvey Houston, ex-wife of movie director John Huston. Steve Hodel was born in November 1941. He had a twin brother who died in infancy, another dead kid. Kelvin Hodel, born in October 1942, is the youngest. The oldest boy was Michael P. Hodel, born on July 12, 1939. According to Steve Hodel, his father and John Huston had questions about Michael's parentage. Finally, Dorothy Harvey Houston told her husband, "Forget it, John. He's not your son." So these are all, it's all weird. Like
It's all sex cult bits, right? All bunch of sex cults are all banging each other. What about Tamar Hodel?
Yeah, I don't know much about Tamar Hodel, but there's a lot. There it is. Yeah, there it is. I see it. Yeah.
Sounds like they were having a hoedown. I mean, Hodel. Yeah.
Straight up.
You know it. Hollywood style, right? In the Mayan temple. But so Tamar Hodel, I believe, would go on to take on John Phillips's daughter after John Phillips was raping his daughter. You know, he was financing the process of LA activities, Mr. Mamas and the Papas.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Phillips Tamar Hodel connection. So I believe as the story goes, he was raping his daughter, and Tamar's like, well, my dad used to rape me, so you can come live with me now since your dad's raping you, you know, that kind of deal. One of them deals. It became like a surrogate mother to her, I believe.
Well, that was a big part of process ideology, right? It's like eroding
the incest. It seems to be, right? It seems to be.
Yeah, and also the person who took over the Black Dahlia murder, case after a long time, Steve Hodel, son of George Hodel,
Right.
and then also was the Rodney Alcala case, the dating game killer guy. So it's kind of weird. Weird. A lot of that Hodel family, you know. I mean it's very like programmed to kill kind of territory, but like it's very the Hodel family is very interesting because when we were talking about pulps, I was like, I know there was like one more thing, and you know, with this, but Elroy got pretty close in the Black Dahlia. If you read the Black Dahlia, his idea of what happened, it's kind of his Don DeLillo Libra kind of situation for the Black Dahlia murder, and I'm like, he's onto something there, because the whole like inbred child like mutilating a girl and then preparing her for a, you know, another ritual, kind of surgical ritual and stuff like that, kind of tracks to me, honestly, more than any other theory.
Yeah.
Sorry, Glenn.
A lot of inbreeding.
Well, I think there's something interesting with what Glenn said. Like, there's this kind of very Lovecraftian element to the pulps, and then you can look at like Marvel, DC. Obviously,
Now you're talking my language,
right? Because that's like the positivistic version for the most part. Like, most of those heroes are actually heroes, even if they're a little complicated in Silver Age. Right, like 60s, 70s stuff, like they get a little complicated, but for the most part, heroes are heroes. So, you know, that's kind of the positivistic lens, and people are always like, oh yeah, that's occulted. Yeah, it is. It's very, you know, it's very Enochian. It's very like Shem, Adamantine Man. I mean, there's so many characters that fit that role. Captain Marvel, Superman,
Wolverine.
I mean, Wolverine, exactly. He's a literal Adamantine Man. So, I mean, you have all these ideas that it's just like, it's basically the same character, but he's kind of recycled. So, but he's generally a good guy. So, but then you have like the Lovecraftian things where it's like, oh yeah, you can bend the rules here because reality is malleable. Reality is like just what you make of it. Reality is like what your parents tell you it is. And like, we don't like our parents. Like it's like a daddy God issue, but you're using kind of magic to emulate
Disney. It's Disney all day long.
You can put that on Private Detective too. Private Detective is like, I'm going to solve this murder my way. Oops, you know, just a lot of these things, and it taps into a different male fantasy of that element. So it's like, man, the pulps need to be studied.
I agree.
Wow.
It's some good stuff there. I think a lot of
Great
stuff's all
rabbit hole.
fiction. I discussed that a lot in Operation GCD. We just recently did an occult and esoteric review of The Golden Child, the 1986 cinematic masterpiece starring Eddie Murphy.
Yeah,
It was very interesting.
A lot of stuff in there.
Well, I listened to Ken McLeod give an interview, like several interviews, just like I did with for Glenn, and for obviously JDO is coming on my show very soon, so I had to listen to that, and he's on Rare Candy a lot. So
he's the man, good friend of mine.
Right. So I had to listen. So I've been listening. So it's the same thing. So I listened to him before I did that episode. He is a very interesting person. The way he speaks, Ken McLeod, he's like talking about Buddhism. He says he's a Buddhist. I have no reason not to believe him. But he's really talking about magic. He almost doesn't hide it. He's almost talking about like post-conceptually, like how I try not to do, because then people think I'm being like too, in the Sephira or whatever. But he does it. So I was just thinking that the whole time that we did that episode is like how profound it is that so many people can come to the realizations, but it can also just be of your own power. It doesn't require spirits, doesn't require cults, doesn't require, like on Rare Candy, I'll just use the example just because I've been listening to it and it's like kind of in my headspace. They talk about like the psychedelic experiences. So I've had them, but I didn't have anything profound really happen. But then when I've had magical experiences, that's like what Nick Saw was talking about. That's much more profound for me.
Yeah, I mean, I know my co-host on Rare Candy does remote viewing. I mean, he straight up does it. He does it as predictive, like a predictive element, and like tests it out and spreadsheets it out and stuff. And he applies it to like sports because there's a binary like win-loss metric to it and stuff. And that's where he gets a lot of his. I mean, he used to do a lot of psychedelics back in the day, but now it's all this. Like he'll just like drink some like green tea or something and do like remote viewing, and he has far more crazy experiences with that. And it's, I know there's obviously a lot of dubious stuff that's done with that type of psi. I mean, that's his name on the show, but it's with a lot of the actual like parapsychology and stuff. But I mean, there's something there. I know that it wouldn't be.
Yeah. Andrea Puharovich is your answer on that.
Andrea Puharovich.
Well, there's a lot of Scientologists involved in this remote viewing. The guys who perpetrated this through SRI, who are Uri Geller's handlers.
Uri Geller's handler was Andrea Puharovich.
Yeah, that's true.
This was after he parted ways. He went over there to see the Scientologists at SRI. I can't think. These are the guys that are perpetrating all these alien nonsense here today. Lord of Mercy, I can't think of their names. There's two signs. Hal Putoff. Yeah, thank you, sir. The Disclosure fellas. Hal Putoff, financed by the Rockefellers. Disclosure Project, by the way. That's how it got started with Stephen Greer and gang. The same Rockefellers that we're talking about with the 9/11 stuff. Nelson and David's brother Lawrence, in fact, was the specific financier of Stephen Greer and the Disclosure Project. But relative to now that I got to talk about the Rockefellers, isn't it weird how they're the ones financing all these ancient alien cargo cult stuff? I've often wondered their connections to Scientology, because they funded Zacharias Sitchin. They had Jordan Maxwell. He had an office in Rockefeller Center right down the hall from Sitchin, and after he left the mothership of the Jehovah's Witnesses. And then you got Lawrence Rockefeller financing Greer. And then what he finances essentially goes in, becomes Skinwalker Ranch. So he finances the onset of that, the pre-Bigelow era of that.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
So a lot of weird stuff. A lot of weird. Linda Moulton Howe, she comes out of that mix.
Oh, God, yeah.
I knew you were going to react that way.
Oh, she gets me, man.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, she's something else. She's a funny one. I actually think those cattle mutilations are more of a cult symbolism than probably even real.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I agree with that.
Uh-huh.
Especially if people are scared of it, because that would like amplify.
Right. That's causing some fear, does it not?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Especially if you have a mass, if a mass populace is like, yeah, we believe in aliens are coming down, like literal aliens, right? Because what are aliens really? Because people have different ways to describe it.
They call their god Elohim. So I'm saying maybe I think maybe it started with a real situation and then they took it to the max capacity and used it for their own occult, advancement. I mean, why wouldn't they?
Because angels, supposed quote unquote air quotes, JJ, you'll have to do it for me. Air quotes, angels tell you to do something. You don't have to do it. You have free will.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Then that's the thing that I think is actually interesting about some of the earlier Tolima stuff is they emphasize this kind of idea of like, know your will. Like I've heard Nick say this 10 million times. Like I can even hear it in my head, like his voice and his accent saying it. But no, I think that that's interesting because it's like, do you buy in? Like that's what Glenn said, like how much buy-in is, needed to make it work. And I think even the little bit buy-in makes it work. But I think that the real idea is just like, do you understand this beyond what they're doing? Like you can say it's just a fiction project. But there's always something greater. There's always there's always a little ego there. Like we were talking about Tiferet and just like joking about that. But yeah, there's something very ego. It's like I'm the, it's like Crowley. I'm the beast. I'm the OG.
Just like Hubbard, he's the Antichrist, and then if they're not a god, then they're the opposite, right? But it's always one of the two. It's always one of the two. Or they're
both into the process, right? It's the reconciliation of opposites.
Mm-hmm.
Hubbard got
this
his
is just
ideas.
a Kabbalistic. Sorry, Heidi.
Yeah. Oh, I was just gonna say Hubbard got his ideas no different than Joseph Smith got his ideas, no different than Crowley got his ideas, no different than John Dee got his ideas. You start messing with shit, you call shit down, they tell you to do something, and then they want you to write a book, but then swap wives or have sex with kids, and then bam.
Well, that's how they interpret that. Exactly what JJ just said, the reconciliation of opposites, because this is like a primordial metaphysical truth. This like transcends all traditions. Like this idea of Nick jokes synthesis, right?
Yeah, it's synthesis. I think that's the way they look at it. It's how they embody living with nature. They have to do what nature does. It's the reconciliation of opposites.
Yes.
Right, but they take it to the extremes of those that they prefer, which we've talked about, is like Hod and Netzach. Like they really love
go crazy
nature, right? And then they also love like the kind of like the transgression, like fun, bliss in the world, right? Yeah. So they take those opposites, but it's really not. It's really they're taking it as like they're the god, kind of like
if I hear what you're saying correctly, it sounds like you're saying
I interrupt you. Well, here's one thing I know in Scientology I was looking up. They say that, the advanced whatever, what are they called? The Thetans live in the skull. The Thetans live in the skull, and boy did that ding me for why they have Geronimo's skull and bones. Like I was like, is this why they have this? Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we believe. It matters what they believe. Right. We're back to that. And so I was like, is that why they're doing this with that? And they still won't give it back because they gave back a skull, but it was a child's skull. That's BS. And so it just goes right back to skull and bones. And it's always older than religion. It's always older. Just like you guys are saying, it's not one thing. It's something way bigger. Like you said, it's synthesis. So, and for me, it always goes back to Babylon.
Synthesis is the 10.
There you go. I was about to say it's a little bit older than that, though, right?
It's always the 10. It's not the, it's not the other numbers.
Yep.
It's the 1 and the 0. It's not
sense.
like these extremes and like the extremities of the tree. It's like it's truly that's where it is. And they say like all things are rectified in yourself and Yesod. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that they just take it way too extreme. I think they should all just be Buddhists like me, smoke some pot, be like, okay, all's good in the world,
Settle down. Jeez.
Infomercial, Elder Jen.
Yeah, they need to settle it down and
see. That's why I can't be Elder Jin, because I'm saying they all should follow Dharma. So I'm actually being like Dharma. I'm Dharma pilling them all.
Well, you might help them. That might be good.
If I may finish my point on these folks being Looney Tunes, these ideas we're discussing here, like that's what I was getting at with the remote viewing with Hal Puthoff and his Scientology associate, who they're basically the ones who ran these remote viewing projects, right? Like they're the ones who brought us these ideas, like, is this some sort of weird magical ritual they're trying to perpetrate? Like, I'm not saying folks don't have these abilities. What I'm saying is the way they framed it, the way they're
Right.
selling it to folks.
They're
right?
trying to make people buy into their story, their version of events.
Yeah, but is there something bigger to it? It seems like there's something
Remote
bigger
viewing,
to it.
remote viewing's better when everyone's doing it. It straight up works more when there's more people doing it. Like
Sure.
it just does. So I mean, the idea is like if you get everybody. I understand the co-opting of it. I totally would if I was in charge. I would be like, oh,
Right. That's exactly what it is. Because
yeah.
I'm good with the mechanics behind it. What you're saying, the volume of folks doing it, but yeah, it's the co-opting, right? Especially when you have Kevin Spacey and George Clooney perpetrating these ideas in a Hollywood film.
Well,
Or
that's
they're
the
ushering
problem.
in fake disclosure so that everybody will believe that their God comes to get them with this whole Project Bluebeam crap, and then they suck them all into the weird cyberspace. I mean,
Yeah, but then
Right,
that
so
book, even the film The Men in Stare Goats is written by a creepy character named John Ronson. He's got a weird background, but nonetheless, it's again, what are they trying to do here? Is this a program? It seems like a program. I can identify a program when I see one. You know, especially within the Mormons. Like, Heidi knows what I'm talking about. Like, I've seen these programs before. You guys are doing some organized stuff here.
Oh, absolutely. They're like, they're all in. I think a lot of them really believe in some weird shit, like things that I would think are weird, and I'm pretty flexible with the way I think. So
Yeah.
I'm good with remote viewing. Like, I'm totally good with these things. I just want to know what their shtick is. Like, what's their end game with doing like the way they're framing it, the way they're packaging it. What's their end
maybe
game?
they're just harnessing the energy from it once again.
There you go.
Well, it had a military application, like a straight up like actual military application, and whether you want to believe this or not is up to
Declassified.
But this is something. There's a guy named Lynn Buchanan who was I think the subject of The Men Who Stare at Goats. He was the guy one night that he had I wish my co-host Cy was here. You guys got to have him on and talk to him about this. He's really good with this stuff. And he basically did the whole, I can't, it's like the Drew Barrymore, like Stephen King Firestarter thing with your mind. I can't remember the rage thing. So he had this like fit of rage over this random, just dumb, like military occurrence that happened in like, and then the power searches, right? Guess what? There's a guy with a clipboard going, that's interesting. Let's bring that guy in right here. So they do the whole remote viewing process with this guy, which I assume had already existed. I don't think this is Lynn Buchanan. It's very X-Men, very like X-Men kind of recruitment thing.
For sure.
Yeah, this guy was already not the highest level in the military at all. They bring this guy in and say, okay, we're looking to we're going to use our data cross-checked with some other thing, with somebody else's data, and then your remote viewing thing. If all three of those things check out, we are going to invade this. We are going to go do this. We're going to go handle this situation. That's just what he was saying. This dude's saying this shit on like podcasts like nothing. Like and I believe it to an extent. Now, I'm sure it's much bigger than that, obviously. Like, it's never just going to be used in that whole, like, we need to get here. How do we get here kind of situation? There's going to be this deeper meaning to it, but it has a direct military application.
Sure.
And it's a big thing for gamblers now. Gamblers love doing it. Like, it's a huge thing. Like, psychedelic gambling stuff is whatever energy that puts out in the world. I
did not know that.
Yeah.
It invaded the gambling community. No, it's definitely military stuff. And you're talking about the Army operation, and that was the Men in Stare Goats, technically speaking, was the Army operation. Yeah. SRI predated that. The Scientologists did. That's what I'm saying. So their stuff was based upon the SRI stuff of how put off and
interesting.
Again, friend.
Yeah, and
L.
Ron Hubbard, I know the whole maritime law thing, but he's spent the whole 60s like sailing the whole time, and you just wonder like what he's doing on that ship the whole time, dude. Probably just some sort of like mass conscious event type situation that he was trying to conduct on it.
He was doing some weird stuff. He wasn't just on the oceans. He was in London.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, go ahead, Jen.
No, I'm just saying that what Glenn said, that's the end goal. Like, that would be the end goal, to have like a total buy-in by like maybe you could say
nothing outside you, just the water. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly. Sure. Like, you're hermeneutically sealed because you're hermeneutically. It's like how Heidi talks about, like, when you're born a Mormon, like in a more conservative Mormon family, you're not really allowed to have the outside influences.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, at all.
They cut it off. And I don't know if you guys have seen the Paul Thomas Anderson film, The Master. That's that's L. Ron Hubbard plus Thomas Pynchon, like parapolitical stuff, essentially. Loosely based off great Thomas film. Pynchon's V. Yeah, it's a great movie, and Philip Seymour Hoffman does a great Hubbard. He can't say he's doing it for all this legal liability stuff, but he's doing.
Got murdered.
Yeah. You have to think because you're like, I mean, because I never heard about a drug addiction to him. I mean, maybe he did, but it was weird.
Well,
that dude was taking crazy shots of heroin. They said it was suicidal, but yeah, of course.
Yeah, but if you know, it's the perfect Scientology frame job because they don't understand drugs properly because they hate them. So they think some guy who did heroin 20 years ago is suddenly going to go buy 47 small baggies of heroin and then do a large volume of it and lie in his bed with a baggies just kind of laying across his belly. You know what I mean? They're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's what a drug overdose looks like. You know what I mean? What I'm saying is somebody who did not understand drug overdoses literally had staged that drug overdose. And so they weren't very smart about it. And they weren't, they weren't very surgical, if you will.
And in that film, you get the classic scene from that film is when L. Ron Hubbard is trying to heal. L. Ron Hubbard character is trying to heal a woman just through talking to her while she's in some kind of in between state, and everybody in the room is bought in, except one guy. There's one guy that goes, "Huh, I don't know about that," basically, and it ruins the entire thing. Not because he's being called out as a fraud, but because you ruined the whatever we were putting up. It was one guy that broke it down. So it's like it's very interesting. It's a very interesting film. I after what we've talked about today, I love it. I might watch it again just after what we talked about today.
Oh, I think it's a great film, and Paul Thomas Anderson and Philip Seymour Hoffman were high on my list of secret Scientologists, largely due to their associations with Tom Cruise. But so I highly recommend Paul Thomas Anderson's. You mentioned Thomas Pynchon's novel Inherent Vice that he did. Great film. Tells the story of the Manson family and the processed church activities in and around the Manson family in Los Angeles, including the machinations of politics, the cult activity, drug trafficking,
Vietnam drug trafficking. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's exactly how I described Narconon. So the part of the process that is described in that film of the organized crime outfit that I just was describing, which is representative of the actual process and their organized crime composite of how they work out. Well, that they're talking about how they're getting them hooked on the drugs, then sending them. Then they send them to get to the rehab, right? Well, that's precisely what they're doing with Narconon today. I mean, in like majority of jurisdictions in America, you can get hooked on Scientology just by inadvertently getting mandated to go to rehab from the court.
Well, there's something you said, JJ, that's really interesting. I don't know about Narconon or that program at all, only from what I've heard from you. But Al-Anon really had
good
a
story, Jen. I'd stick to it, Elder Jen. You're that way you don't never get confused to be a Scientologist. Never heard of Narconon. Please tell me about it.
No, I've heard of Narconon. I don't know anything about like how to work it or anything. But I'm saying Al-Anon, the guy who did the Al-Anon, so I don't know if it's the same foundation, we'll call it. I'll use a magic word. So he was drawing from magic. He was drawing from Manly P. Hall. He was talking about New Thought, all those people, like, because they had that stuff, like all that stuff that people talk about on Twitter, like manifestation. Yeah, they were talking about that in like 1870. Like that's old. Yeah, to quote unquote use a Zoomer term. I know your favorite, JJ. You always accuse me of being a Zoomer or whatever. So like that's like old true shit. That's like old fashioned stuff. So they're talking about like that's what he's talking about. He's like make yourself better through the power of positive thinking. And so
that does sound like a Mormon.
Yeah.
Well, it's the nexus point between all those things, right? Because like going clear, the same idea in Kabbalah, like they're teaching people metaphysics, but in like kind of a fucked up clipolithic way.
Well,
really.
It sounds like you think and I agree with you. There's a good utility for some of that stuff, though, right? Like it's not.
Oh
it's
yeah,
not,
I think yeah.
Discard it all. You don't see. I'm of the same mind where I'm like
everything.
If this exists, this doesn't. I don't have to handle it with like Homer. I mean, maybe you do have to handle it with Claire, but like you don't have to.
It's dangerous.
Yeah, I think to seclude yourself, or to like I should say exclude yourself from a lot of this stuff would give off a fear, which fear then is almost like we said with the cattle mutations, kind of like, whoa, what is that doing? You know? Like,
no, I'm all in.
Like there's never dark without the light. With it. Yeah, there's never dark without light.
Yeah,
never,
exactly.
Ever.
Right. I have Heidi and JJ, who like kind of hold me back from like full on abyss diving, and Nick's like, go for it.
Even though he became an elder right before our eyes, we are holding Jin back.
Yep.
No, I'm just teasing, but you guys
look at your name.
Back to be like, yeah, don't be so. No, I'm like, but I'm very like, yeah. I think that people should at least study wisdom science, be involved in a noetic process. because that's really what
Oh, for
gnosis
sure.
is, right? It's like the like learning about these things, like all the different texts, and like because then you can say like, oh, it's like I accidentally joked to this on one of the guests and he kind of got offended. But it's like where you have a citation and you go back and you look at the citation and the citation is not referring to what it's supposed to be referring to. It's like, but if you read the original text, then you can actually know what it says. You don't have to listen to someone's like third-hand account. So
interesting.
I totally agree, Jen. I often credit the Mormon Church for the same way. I'm like, well, my Mormon upbringing had some good things to it. I credit my conspiracy theory worldviews to my Mormon upbringing and their Gnostic belief system. And it is a very Gnostic belief system, and you can see it through a lot of Mormon activities. Now they manifest differently. Mine, they manifest in a far different, manner than most, or far different manner than most. A lot of folks just stack about 3,000 jars of food in their basement. I took a different route with those perspectives. Heidi knows what I'm talking about with all the food storage and prepper stuff. But like, so these are very, very much ingrained in the values there, and there's a strong conspiracy theorist worldview, if you will, through this Gnostic worldview. So, I do appreciate that, but there's a lot of dark things about the Mormons.
Non-sectarian Gnosticism is totally good, like where you don't take it crazy, but the problem is where you put it in like these containers, you could say, and like you say, oh,
containers of food in a Mormon basement.
Well, there's elements of Mormonism that do make sense to me. I'm not again, but it does. Like I'm just saying there's a logic to it. But I don't agree with how they do it. Like I think it can just all be done conceptually, like in your mind. Right. I don't think you need like all this weird shit they do. Like, yeah, like
and they need to be truthful. They're not truthful.
Well, I'm just like, if people want to be Mormon and they want to be magicians, then just say. Like that's how I think of it. It's just say what it is. You don't have to tell us like all about it, but
tell us what we're doing.
Like people who are Mormons, they should be like, yeah, you guys are actually learning Masonic shit.
Yeah, I definitely deserve to know that I had Mason underwear on and I didn't even know what a Mason was. So, I mean, that's totally unfair, Mormon Church. And that's why I'm coming for you every day, straight from Utah. My neighbors hate me.
Right from the beehive.
Right from the beehive.
Yes.
I think we're gonna wrap it up here if you guys don't mind. We're a little bit over 2 hours, and Heidi has to get going, and so do I. So
sorry, my kids.
No, you're totally fine. Totally fine. Again, Glenn, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Anytime. I felt like I was paled in comparison to you guys, but thank you. You guys don't realize like how many like doors you guys opened up just from chatting. So that's why I love this medium platform. So
anytime.
You guys gotta first off, you guys gotta have my co-host on here. He's really into parapsychology, but he's just a fun
tell him to hit me up.
Hippie guy. So like he's really cool. I would need to hear him on here. Actually, is what I'm demanding it.
Okay.
So
do you guys do guests as well? I'm sure.
I'm sure we'd love to. We'll all mix. We'll be like the Hodells and the Houstons of podcasting.
There you go.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
we'll bring all the gym with us.
Don't forget the Carradines.
There you go.
So Glenn, let everybody know again where they can find your show, please.
Sure. Yeah. rarecandy.substack.com. That's where all the writing is. And if you like what I said about fiction, that's where our podcast Gain of Fiction is located there. It's part of like our whole premium feed. You guys understand how all that works, of course. And then we're on Apple and Spotify, just Rare Candy. It's not a Pokemon podcast, but it started that way. It didn't start that way, but the name like came from that. Okay. Obviously, we don't like pretend to not know what that is, obviously. So people do occasionally get misinformation, then they're like, oh, this is not what I thought. So there's that, and then at Rare Candy Pod 1 on X, and then at Rare Candy Pod on Instagram. So thanks again, guys. Absolute blast. Anytime. Anytime. I'll be in touch with all of you, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. No, that was great. Thank you. And I'll have your show notes. I'll put everything in the bottom. If you want to, you can just send me everything, and I'll make sure that's included in the bottom. And I'll have JJ's, and we got Frater Gins, and we got Heidi Loves that I'll add in the bottom. You got all their links for their shows. Thank you again all for coming on. It was a great show. Mm-hmm. I appreciate it. It was definitely an Occult Reject show. And then till the next one, everyone be well. Later.